What is up, everybody? Thank you guys for tuning in. It's Henry Eisenstein here, and we're going live again for a fun time here on a beautiful Sunday. Thank you guys for tuning in. We're going to be covering the 5 core activities to help you earn $1 million plus in the commercial real estate business. So stay tuned. We got a good session for you guys. Also, while you're watching, if you have any specific questions, drop it in the chat box in the comment section down below. We'll make sure we answer everything before the end of the session. And if you guys want free resources, obviously make sure you check out the description down below. So without any further ado, let's just dive right on in. So first and foremost, to explain what these activities are, because there's a lot of activities, commercial real estate agents, right, like that we do on a regular basis. There's a lot of activities. There's substantially more than 5 things that we would do on a regular basis, you know, given the, the nature of the business, right? There's going to be a lot of activities that we do, but mainly 5 of them are what makes us the most money possible. Okay. And I actually write about this in my book, which will be coming out later this year. Very excited about that. We're in one of the final revisions of my book. So I'm super excited about that. So this is something that we cover in the book. So the 5 core activities, these are going to be specific things where you need to master these 5 activities in order to make substantial money. Now, there's a lot of activities you're going to do that can make you, help you close one deal. Right. But these are going to be the core activities that are going to help you really scale your business to the next level. So without any further ado, let's dive on in. So the first core activity, okay, is lead generation. Okay. Lead generation. When you're talking about lead generation, I feel like too many people misunderstand lead generation. And let me explain. Because lead generation doesn't just necessarily mean that you're going to be cold calling. Right? This doesn't just necessarily mean that you're going to be hitting the phones, trying to generate a lot of opportunities. That is part of lead generation, right? But a lot of lead generation is actually ensuring that you're generating the right quality leads, okay? Because there's a huge difference. Because there are people who generate, let's just say, I don't care if it's 10, 20, 40, or 100 plus leads per month, right? I'm talking about seller leads for a second, right? Seller leads, okay, per month, okay? I don't care what bucket you're in. I don't care if it's less than 10, like I'll call it 1, 10, 20, 40, 100, but I don't care what it is, right? But for those of you who are generating seller leads, okay, it's not just about the amount of them, because that is obviously something that's incredibly important to track and to measure. But what's incredibly important is to understand the quality. Okay, let's talk about quality for a second here. Okay, because too many people make the mistake in the commercial real estate business is that they like fall in love with, right? They're obsessed with all of these leads that have absolutely no clear path, okay? We want a CP, a clear path. The problem is that a lot of you are focusing on leads that don't have a clear path, right? We want to find ones that have a clear path. It must have a clear path to transacting, clear path to dollars, okay? And we're going to explain a little bit about that today, which is how to understand how many leads actually, or what leads specifically, are actually going to have a clear path to making money, okay? Because a lot of you are generating leads. You're generating 1, 10, 20, 40, 100 plus leads. Good for you. By the way, I'm giving you a bit of kudos here, especially if you're on the latter half of this, right? If you're on the latter half of this, great. If you're, in the beginning part of this, there's obviously some, more work that you should be putting in. But for those of you who are generating 20, 40, or 100 plus leads a month, good for you. You're checking one box. Okay. And today I'm not, I'm not going to dive super deep into this because a lot of you need to be making the calls. I mean, I talk about this literally every single day in my content, right? And if you're struggling here with lead generation, you can watch some of the other videos. But today we're going to talk about the next levels of lead generation, which is specifically how to understand and make sure that you're generating the right leads. Because a lot of people aren't. A lot of people who are starting out in the business specifically, right? They generate a number of leads, whatever the number is, but they are focused too much on the leads that don't have a clear path to making money. So let's focus on this. I'm just going to make sure this is at the top again. Give me 1 minute. Okay. So when you're doing lead generation, you're going to choose one of the core 4 activities. All right. So I'm just going to get this out of the way. Super basic review, which is either going to do cold, one-to-one, cold, one-to-many, or you're going to do the same thing for warm, okay? I'm just going to do a quick review of this. Okay, so you're either going to do cold calling, cold door knocking, cold emailing, cold texting, like individual people specifically. You're going to do the same thing for cold one-to-many if you're doing hypothetically. This is going to be the paid advertisements, right? Like you could do paid ads, paid mailers, paid text blasts, paid SEO marketing, paid Facebook ads. I don't care how you're generating a lead here, right? Warm one-to-one is your sphere of influence, right? Your database, people who know you, like you, trust you, and your warm one-to-one is social media. Most people, right, you're going to probably start here, right? And then as you start making more money, you're going to end here, right? You're going to realize that this is down the road, right? But you're going to start here and you're going to end here. Anyways, that's the core 4. Now, what's going to be more important is the understanding of vetting. Okay? A lot of people miss this. A lot of people miss this. Okay? You can't be one of those people who misunderstands vetting. When I mean vetting, it's specifically you generate a lead. Okay? You generate a lead, and then you have to qualify them. Because just because they say I'm open to selling does not mean they're an actual lead. Okay? Does not mean that they're something that's actually going to have a clear path. Because you're going to go lead, qualify, and then this is going to tell you if it's a clear path or not, right? And it's going to be a yes or a no. That's okay. One or the other, but you're going to be clear about it. Because all I try to do with my team and all the agents that work with me in our communities is that we're just trying to better understand this process when it comes to lead gen. A lot of people here, especially those of you who are watching my content, been following the journey for a long time, you're generating a lot of leads, but a lot of you are not doing a great job at this piece, okay? And I try to instill this understanding into as many of my clients and my team members as possible, okay? Which is, how do you know as fast as humanly possible, because we want to condense the time frame, right? Like, so underneath vetting is that you have this time frame, okay, which is, you know, call it lead and then to dollars. And a lot of the time it's like this, okay? It's this long timeline, okay? What I try to do is I just try to bring this up to here. How do I know within a very short time? And I want to know within like 24 hours, right? Or less, where like now I can find out in 5 minutes, you know, call it 5 minutes of getting information. But I want you to know within, my goal for all of you is to learn this within 24 hours, to know within a day, is this something to spend more time on? Or is this something that I'm just going to follow up with in the future, which is totally fine. But it does not mean that I'm going to obsess and spend all this time, energy, and effort with on a very regular basis. I want to know as fast as humanly possible, is this something that we as a team or you as an individual should be spending time on to try to convert into dollars, right? Because that's the whole point of this timeline. This is like lead at the beginning here, and this is dollars at the end. And you just want to know how close you are to understanding, is there actually going to be a pathway, right? Doesn't mean you're actually going to make money this fast. I just want to know if we're going to make money that fast. That's all, right? I want to know, like, hey, is this something that we can transact on or not? Let me explain what this means, okay? So we're just going to be talking specifically about vetting for a moment, okay? Vetting. So you generated a lead. Now you have to qualify. Because as an example, I just had somebody who, you know, brought me a lead the other day, okay, a team member, and they go, she goes, hey, I have this property. Here's my weird looking building. Okay, I have this building. It's 3 units. Okay, it's 1 commercial. Okay, and 2 apartments. They want 1.7 million. And they said, I don't really need to sell it, but if I were to sell it, I'd want $1.7 million. It's okay, Zoe. I got my dog with me. She's one of my best friends, my biggest supporter. She's hanging out with me. They wanted $1.7 million here, okay? Which it's not just about the number, but it's understanding, does this actually compute? Because in some markets, this could be a great price. I'm not saying, you know, like it can't ever be worth 1.7, but in this instance, because of the location, okay, and based off of the details, right, the type of property, right, like the income as an example, I can quickly dictate based off of this funnel, right, at the very end, is there $1 or is there nothing, right? That's what I want to know. And by quickly understanding the location, the details, and the income, right, I already knew that this property was worth somewhere between 600, right, and 800K. I knew that for an absolute fact, just based off of the income, the details. I'm not going to go too much into this because, I mean, this is a lot about underwriting. We talk about underwriting in a lot of my content, but I'm just trying to give you the understanding of what to do here, right? This is the bare bones stuff of like how to quickly qualify. You want to get a better understanding of the location, understanding the details, understand the income. And once you do, I quickly understood within about 30 seconds, because I know this market, okay? This is a deal in New Jersey. I probably know New Jersey better than most people out there, okay? I would go toe-to-toe with most people. I don't think I'm the best, but I can definitely, you know, I can hold my own. But I knew that this property was probably only worth 600, 800 grand, okay? given the situation. So I was like, hey, if someone goes, hey, I want $1.7 million, and if I don't get 1.7, I don't need to sell it. I'm good. Thanks. Like it's really just, if you can get me my number, great, no problem. I'm sure we hear this all the time. By the way, in the comment section down below, right in the chat, let me know for those of you who here has gotten some people would just go, if you can get me my price, I'll sell it, right? Like, I'm a price type of seller, right? There's a lot of sellers that are like that, right? If you are that kind of person, give me a thumbs up or give me, an emoji in the chat, right? So, there's a lot of people like that. We deal with them all the time. I'm sure you do too. So what's important to decipher, though, is this even in a range where we can even make some type of money? Because at 1.7, what do you think? For those of you who are in the chat, give me a yes or no. Do you think if you got this deal for $1.7 million, you listed it for 1.7 or maybe even 1.8 to even make sure you had your commission included or whatever, do you think you'd ever sell that deal? How do you think that would go? Right? How do you think it would go? Do you think you would sell that deal? Because I think we would all agree that probably the answer is no. You probably wouldn't sell this deal, right? So what happens, though, is that so many people fall for this trap, right? That's not an I'm a seller. Everyone falls for this trap. I'm a seller, right? You just try to fall, like all of a sudden you fall for this trap of they're a seller. They're not a seller. This is not an actual seller lead, okay? You think it is because you got somebody on the phone who said they might be open to selling the property, and that's okay, right? That's your job. But this is the qualification period of time where you just want to condense timeframes and go, what would you do with this lead, right? Well, I'll tell you what I'll do with this lead. I'll put this on a follow-up campaign. I'll follow up with them probably once a quarter until they, either one of us die, right? So I'm going to follow up with them forever until something happens, right? Either a transaction occurs or one of us dies. Like that's just what's going to happen, right? That's our follow-up plan. So when I see these leads, instead of, thinking like, oh my God, I got to sell a lead, like this is going to be a deal, I can get a listing, whatever, and try to pitch an exclusive. No, we don't do that, right? We can educate them, right? What we'll do is like the next step, once you've understood this process, right? I'm going to redo this, right? So the next step here in this vetting process, right? You go lead to qualify. Okay. Now you've gotten the qualifications, you go immediately to a starter. Right? Starter offer. So this is our team's process. So what we do is we have the same property, just like we had before, my little building. Okay. They tell us during the qualification process all the details. Right? We got the lead. Now we're in the qualifications, which is the details / the price the seller wants. Right? This is a price that the seller is asking. Right? This is asking price. Asking. Right? Now we go to a starter offer. Okay. The next process here is that we offer this person $600,000 because I know it's worth between 6 and 8. Now, look, a lot of you go like, oh, well, that's a low ball. It's not a low ball. It's just the market. The building's not worth 1.7. The guy wants 1.7 million, right? He wants it for a mixed use. It's just not worth that, right? He told us the dollar amount, the financials and all that kind of stuff. I said, I'll pay you 600 grand. I was like, I have a buyer who would offer you 600 grand for this deal. And the guy goes, absolutely not. This is ridiculous. I wouldn't take anything less than $1.5 million for it. Okay, he told us 1.7. And then he came back. So we started with the starter offer, right? Because then you're going to get feedback. This is part of the This is the part of the vetting, people. This is part of vetting. This is the vetting process. Okay? You're going to get feedback. And during this feedback, right, is going to be probably a counter of some sort. Now, it might be at full price what he wanted, the 1.7 million here, okay? But in this case, we offered him 600, and he said, I wouldn't do it for less than $1.5 million, right? Thought we were crazy. I'll never take 600. No problem. I don't need you to take 600. I just want to know if you're being serious. And when he counters back at $1.5 million, what is his, because then now it comes back down to here. Okay, I'm going to use this little bottom part of the screen here. What happens is that once you have this, you're going to get something called motivation. You're going to get clarity, motivation. Okay? You're going to get motivation. Does this person at this counter have motivation to sell? Yes or no? That's what I want to clarify. Because the motivation equals the clear path. Okay? And just because they want to sell, which you can argue is some level of motivation, right? The problem is that if they don't have a motivation when it comes, if it's just price, where it's just like, hey, like I'm a price seller. Let me explain to you, okay? Because there's a couple different types of sellers, okay? There's people who have like their price, which is price motivation, okay? So price motivated, which I'm that kind of person. If you got me the right price, I would sell any property I own right now, okay? You gave me the right price, no problem. I'll sell the deal, okay? And a lot of people are price motivated. I would not say that I'm a motivated seller, though. right? That is a motivation, right? Price is a motivation. It would make me motivated to sell the property if you gave me a stupid number for it, of course, right? However, this is not the people you want to be spending time on, right? What you want to be focused on specifically for the sellers are the ones that have internal, not external motivation, right? They have internal motivation, right? Or you can even, let me explain it differently. You want to have someone who's, I would say like this, focus on people who are external from price. External from price. Which basically just means they're not price motivated. I want to explain it that way. Better way to think about it. Instead of focusing on the sellers that are specifically motivated on price, okay, I want you to just think of the people who are externally motivated from price, okay? If they have an additional motivation outside of price, we're like, hey, I'm retiring. Hey, I'm looking to close down my business, right? I'm looking to do a 1031 exchange. I got tax issues, all this different type of stuff, getting divorced, whatever it is, okay? You want to find people who have a motivation other than price, not price motivated, okay? You want to find people who are external from price. Now, what this does is that, let's just say this, like if we're going to look at this individual, it gives you more clarity, right? Like that's what the whole purpose of this is. It gives you more clarity. Is this, what kind of motivation does this person have? Does this person have an external motivation of price or price-driven motivation? Which one is it? Right? Drop it in the chat. What do you think? Is it price-driven or is it external from price? Right? I hope you were saying price-driven because these are that is a price-driven motivation type of seller. Okay. Now it is a motivation, but it's not the right one that's going to drive dollars. Okay. And there's some people, by the way, that are price motivated. Very few, very, very few. Okay. That are price-driven motivation. However, their price, they don't understand the value. So they just said this guy would be like, oh, I want 500 grand for my property because they don't understand the value. Right. Those are some of my favorite people, by the way. Okay. Finding people who are like price motivated, but they have no idea what the value is. And then they were like, like, look, someone told me it was worth $500,000, but I know it's worth 800. Okay. As an investor, I get excited, right? Those are some good opportunities. Or as a broker, you have a good way of making some money for that seller, right? So it's important to understand price motivation is the majority of leads though. Like that is the vast majority of what leads are, what if they're thinking when they say they're open to the idea of selling, right? They are price motivated people. It does not mean that they have a clear path to transaction. Like clear path, right, does not mean that, it does not equate to price motivation or equate to external, right? The clear path is a mixture of everything, right? Is there a clear path to making money, right? And that's what we're trying to decipher as fast as humanly possible. And that is the purpose of this vetting process, right? It goes from a lead, right? Here, it starts with lead. Then we're going to qualify them. We're getting into all the property details, possible details, price that they're specifically asking for, better understanding of what's going on. Then you're going to make a starting offer. Okay. This will then give you feedback and a counter. Now, once I have this, and we try to do that on my team within 24 hours, that is our process. And what I teach to our community is how to come up with this feedback loop within 24 hours, right? This way I know moving forward, is there a clear path to making money or not? Okay, so when we go all the way back now to lead generation, which is our number one in this list of 5 core activities, right? When we go to the vetting process, right? We just want to know, is there a clear path to making money? Because if there is, we're going to get to the next step. Because a lot of people, like we talked about, are generating a lot of leads, but a lot of them, majority of the leads you're going to come across, even if you're generating 20, 40, 100 plus leads a month, okay, a lot of them, 95%, okay, do not have a clear path to dollars. 95% of them will not have a clear path to making money. Okay, so that means what happens is that a lot of brokers spend time on the 95% versus the 5%. Now, what's interesting, though, is that there's purpose for both sides, right? The 5% is now money. The 95% is later money. Okay? But you have to mix your time between both. Too many of us are spending way too much time on the 95, right? Because what I try to do is I spend 80% on the 5 and 20% on the later. Okay? So I'm spending, like, again, what these leads here, right, is that like 5% of those businesses now, and then 95% of them are later. Too many people have it 80 over here, okay, and 20 over here. I'm like, hey, like, let's just convert these as fast as humanly possible, right? And we'll deal with these later in our follow-up process. That's what we have automatic campaigns for and all that type of stuff, right? Which, by the way, CRE Sync, my custom-built CRM, is going to be launching next month. Very excited for that. So if you're interested in up-leveling your business and dominating the later type of your business, the later parts of your business, CRE Sync is coming out next month. So I'm just the type of person where I'm like, hey, let's just spend 80% of my time on the now business and 20% of my time on the later business. Okay, because I want to focus on the stuff that has the clear path. If it does not have the clear path to making money, it's a later business, right? If it has clear path to making money, it's the now business. And I want to spend as much time as humanly possible on the now, okay? Because that's most important to us right now, because we need, again, like for those of you, I don't know how long you can go without a paycheck, right? But it's like I teach my team, it's like, hey, focus on the now business as fast as humanly possible. Let's get it converted. This is why, like, as soon as we generate a deal, sometimes within a week we have an accepted contract, right? Because then we can go to the next deal, and then the next deal, and the next deal. We just have to make sure our pipeline is filled, right? That's our, one of our bottlenecks is just making sure our pipeline's filled at all times with new opportunities, right? Because a lot of you are generating a lot of leads, which is a good thing. I mean, we're generating over 1,000 leads a month, right? We're doing a good job here. However, like our focus is like, let's convert the now business, and we have a great process for the later business. This is how the train can be moving. Like this huge, this business can compound and build very quickly. Okay. But a lot of you, and the reason, especially at the beginning of your career, the reason why you can't get your train out of the starting gate, like it's at the station, right? Whatever that is, right? You can't get your horse out of the starting gate, your train out of the station, right? Like whatever the actual terms are, right? The reason why is because you're spending too much time here, right? The ones that have, this one here has no clear path. You're focused too much time on this. If you just take all of your time, energy, and effort to convert the leads that you come across, of the 20, 40, or 100, whatever you're generating, and focus on the ones that'll make you money or generate more, right? Let's say you're only generating 20 leads right now. If you're at like 20 leads a month, okay, per month, 95%, right? 95% are going to have not a clear path. 5% are going to have a clear path. So what does that mean for your business? Well, that means based on this math right now, right? That's one lead per month, okay, is going to have a clear path. And that means 19 leads, right, are not going to have a clear path. So that means one lead a month. If you're generating 20 leads a month, 20 seller leads, okay? This would be sellers. 20 seller leads a month generated, 1 out of 20 are going to even have any type of reasonable clear path. And this is the law of averages. So not every single month are you going to have one. One month you might have 2, and the next month you might have 0. Okay? So this is where too many brokers get hung up on on deals that are just never going to make any money, right? So you have to fix this part of your process, which is just condensing this time frame of lead to dollar and trying to know, is there a clear path as fast as humanly possible? That's the point here, right? And the how is understanding underwriting, which we're not going to dive too much into today. But this is the vetting, right? This is the vetting process, right? To come up with, once you're vetting them, you got your lead, and then you get your details, and then you're going to submit your starter offer, right? The way you come up with your starting offer is from underwriting, right? Understanding the process of underwriting, which we'll talk about in a different training. But like, this is how we know as quickly as humanly possible when it comes to lead gen. Not only should you be generating more leads, but you must be generating more qualified, clear path leads to dollars, right? Deals that have more, the more leads obviously that you generate, the more likely it is for you to generate more with a clear path. But it doesn't always guarantee it, okay? Because if you're doing cold calling, okay, cold calling, you're going to realize that it's probably going to be 95-5, like we talked about. But if you're doing warm referrals, right? Call it 1-to-1 over here, right? This is cold 1-to-1. Okay. Now, cold calling, you're probably going to be 95-5, maybe even 98-2. Okay. because cold call, I mean, obviously you're just cold generating these leads out of the cold. Warm, you're probably going to be somewhere between either 90-10, right? Or you could be like 80-20. Okay, you have the ability of generating some like higher quality leads, of course. These are just harder to come by. Okay, but this principle, right, especially when you're going out like now cold marketing, right? You're going to be again probably, I mean, like, if this is 90, let's just do it like this, right? 95-5, 90-10. This one actually, I would even probably argue like somewhere even in the middle. This could be like 80-20. Okay, cold marketing might be 98-2, right? Where you have the highest chance possibly, obviously in warm referrals to get more qualified leads. Again, they're just harder to come by. Cold marketing, you're going to spend a lot of dollars here, right? But you're going to be able to so it's going to be a lot of leads that might not be super high quality, but that 2% can be really strong, right? Obviously, it just depends on how much money you're willing to spend. This is time driven. This is relationship driven. And this is dollar driven, right? Time driven because you have to be spending more time on cold calling. You warm referrals, you need to build relationships, right? And then cold marketing, you have to build up your bank account, right? So the more you can focus on where you have your strong suit. What is your strong suit, right? At the very beginning for me, it was cold calling, right? Then I built my database over time. And now I also do cold marketing, where now we generate over 1,000 leads a month. Right? But still, I have like a blended, call it something like 10%, or so, where like are good quality leads, right? Where I feel like 10% or so call it like 100, right, of the 1,000 actually have a clear path, as an example. And then I get to cipher these even further down from that point to find like this is how we're closing between 5 and 15 deals a month, because we have 100 deals with clear path to transacting. Right? So how many leads a month are you generating with a clear path to transaction is how you can dictate your ability to make money, right? This is where your pipeline. Your clear path leads is your hot pipeline, right? This is the hot pipeline. Like, if it has a clear path, okay, this is your hot, oh, seriously. 1 second. This is your hot lead pipeline. Okay? So if you don't have a lot of leads with clear path, let's just say, it's we're recording this today is October 19th, okay? When we're recording this. If hypothetically, which means that we're basically calling almost 10 months into the year, right? Done through the year, 10 months into the year, okay? Let's say at this point you have maybe, let's just say 5 to 20 leads, right? That have a clear path. And you might have hundreds, if not thousands, okay, that have no clear path, which is totally fine. But this means this is your pipeline right now. It's not this. This is your pipeline. You have 5 to 20 leads that have a clear path. Sell these deals, start trying to convert into dollars, and then you can report into generating more with clear paths, right? So it's like focus on the hottest pipeline. Let's get it converted, and then that can generate more business. Use the systems from like a CRM, like I know as CRE Sync comes out, that has the ability to give you, the highest possibility possible, right? They give you the highest possibility or highest likelihood of conversion, right? But like too many of us are spending too much time here when I spend my time here. Okay. Hope that makes sense. Again, that's for the lead gen. It's about generating more leads, but also more that have a clear path to transacting. Okay. Now we're going to focus on, let's go to the next tier. We're going to focus on lead follow-up. Okay. So number 2 is lead follow-up. Again, we're going to talk about it a little bit differently than you probably heard in the past, because this is lead conversion. Okay. Now you're going to need, obviously like a CRM system, which we're talking about CRE Sync, which by the way, if you want to get access to it before it comes out, email us at info@henryeisenstein.com, subject line CRM. We'll make sure we get you a copy or a link to it right before it comes out. Okay. So you'll be part of the founding group. So, but you need a CRM system. I don't care if it's CRE Sync or anything else. Get a CRM system that allows you to market to these individuals and add to campaigns, right? It must have a campaign functionality, which is auto, text, and email, okay, and ringless voicemail RVMs, right? But if you have the ability to create automatic text messages, emails, and ringless voicemails through an automatic campaign, right? This is going to give you an enhanced conversion. Because most people are not utilizing this. What most people do, the biggest mistake that you make, or most agents make when it comes to lead conversion, is that you solely focus, okay, on calls. Okay, which make sure that this looks normal. On calls. Okay, which basically just means all on you. If it's all on you, you're going to have a difficult time scaling your business and converting more leads. You just are. Okay, you're going to have a more difficult time when it comes to lead generation. And by the way, let me know in the chat. I'm just curious, right? Like for those of you who here is struggling with lead gen, with lead gen or lead follow up, you can put in the chat. Who's struggling with what? I'm just curious. Like, what do you feel like you're having more difficulty with, right? Like, are you struggling with generating leads, or are you struggling with lead conversion, right? Lead generation or lead conversion. What do you feel like you're struggling the most with? Because a lot of people are actually pretty good at generating leads, right? A lot of people are then like, it's like sometimes we have people who are struggling with one piece or the other, right? And then there's some people who are struggling with both, right? So for me, it was actually like I was really, really good at generating leads. I struggled with my lead follow-up though, right? And then I learned some processes many years ago that helped me like never lose the lead ever again, as long as it had this is, by the way, we're going to talk about both, right? Like, because all this here is not only, this is for properties with a clear path and without. Okay, with a clear path and without a clear path. Most people though, okay, now we talked about the ones that, you're spending way too much time on the ones that don't have a clear path. This is what you should do instead, right? Because you should not be relying 100% on your own efforts and solely focusing on calls. Where the money is made is learning the automation tools of you utilizing technology today, right? Use technology, okay? Use the tech today. We're 2025 people, okay? I'm speaking on a panel tomorrow, EXPCon. If you're going to be at EXPCon or even in Miami, let me know. Be very interested to hang out and spend some time together, right? I'm speaking tomorrow on AI, okay? AI has allowed us, right, as an example, similar to the internet, because the internet came out, by the way, in 1991. The World Wide Web came out in 1991. And now AI came out, a couple of years ago. And all AI is just another tool. Okay, there was a lot of people who never thought that we would ever use, cell phones, which now sits in our pocket and we stare at it for hours and hours and hours a day. AI is just the next evolution. Okay, because it went from, the radio, or the telegraph originally, then it was the radio, then it was the TV, then it's the phone, right? And now we have, the integration of, the internet was put on the phone, and now AI is being utilized on the phone. It's just another tool. It's another application that we can use. Okay, and as a business owner, you have to look at it from the lens of and the perspective of imagine being. This is a lot of what I'm talking about tomorrow, by the way. If you're wondering what I'm going to be talking about, but this is what I'm going to specifically talk about. Is like imagine being somebody in the 1990s. Okay. Imagine being someone in the 1990s and the internet came out in 1991. Okay. So imagine being in the 90s. The internet comes out in 91. Imagine, then I think the World Wide Web came out in 94, 97 or something like that. The point is the World Wide Web came out a few years later. Imagine not using the internet right when it first came out. And by the way, many people did. Most people didn't become like worldwide adoption of using the internet regularly until the early 2000s, right? It was the huge tech boom. Right? The .com boom, right? And in the early 2000s, it became like more modernized where like everyone was just using it regularly to do business. Making lots of technology businesses started in the 90s, right? And then into the early 2000s. And that's where, a large portion of the businesses today that are in the S&P, or a lot of them are technology businesses. But a lot of those started within the last 20 or 30 years, right? Now, what's interesting though, is like imagine not using a CRM, like today, not using a CRM. Imagine today in 2025, imagine not using a CRM system. It just sounds silly, right? Imagine using, a Rolodex. You guys remember what a Rolodex is, right? My grandfather had a Rolodex, and it literally was a bunch of pieces of paper in like a spring type of old spring binder type of thing, and you had to sift through it, right? That was his Rolodex, okay? And it was like all these people with their names and numbers on a little card, okay, and organized by by letter. And like the main one was like A, and then you go to all the A's, and then you had a B flyer, and then all the B's. Imagine trying to run your real estate business in 2025 and using a Rolodex. You'd be looked at like you'd be laughed at if someone actually saw what was going on underneath the hood of your business, right? It's just like not using a CRM today. Because if you're not using a CRM system today, I don't actually know what you're utilizing to make sure you're organized, right? AI is just going to be one of these tools where in another 3 years or 5 or 20, right, if you're not slowly learning the new tools, right, just like the people like my grandfather who used a Rolodex, he never actually adopted. I mean, obviously, he, God bless him, he passed away, right? He was a psychologist, and it's like I want you to think about this, right? Those individuals, right, where he ran, his business, right, and when he had clients come in as an example, right, he had his little Rolodex. He never used a CRM system ever in his life. He never wanted to use it. Like he just never went digital. He had all these types of papers laying around of people's contact information. You can't do that today. And you will look sillier and sillier as time goes on, wherein hypothetically, 3 or 5 or 20 years from now, you're not utilizing AI. It's just going to be like one of those things where like, how are you not using an iPhone today or a phone today, right? You're trying to still use a pager. It doesn't make any sense. That's the difference with AI versus what your tools are today. It doesn't mean you can't use, like, if you don't want to use them today, it's okay. Just over time, you will start to look a little bit sillier and sillier because it will be like using a telegraph today, right? You're not going to use the telegraph. Why would you use the telegraph? You don't use Morse code, right? We use a phone, and you can just FaceTime somebody and quickly get an answer, or call them today and get an answer very quickly. That's what AI is, right? So AI is just the evolution of technology. And you're just going to have to learn how to use it, because if you don't, you will be left in the dust. And people who are using it are just going to find that business is just a little bit easier. It doesn't mean that you can't use it, that you shouldn't use it today, or that you should 100%, because there's some of you who are like, you may never adopt because you're planning on leaving the business in the next 5 or 10 years. Fine, you might not need to know it. But somebody like myself, where I'm going to be around for the next 50 years, I just turned 31 last week, I'm going to be in the industry for the next 50 years. I need to learn technologies, all these different technologies and these tools that are coming out regularly, because I want to be in the business for the next 50 years. So if you're planning on being in the business more than just the next 3 to 5 years, I would highly recommend you learn AI and all the tools behind it. And I'll make sure I create a couple more videos about what tools to be utilizing and how to utilize them as well. Okay. I just want to make sure I double check anything here in the chat box. Looking at it. Awesome. Cool. So when it comes to follow-up, let's talk about it. So one of the big things, and by the way, this is in CRE Sync, for those of you who are interested in getting a new CRM system, which will be launching in next month. For those of you who are interested, it's already going to be preloaded with my specific and custom-built text, email, and ringless voicemail campaigns. My custom-built campaigns are already going to be built into it. My follow campaigns for any lead you come across, my seller lead campaigns, my buyer lead campaigns, and my cold lead campaigns are all going to be custom built into this system. So instead of you building it and trying to come up with it on your own, which I'm going to explain in a moment how you could do that, right? You can just take all of mine and you can immediately have it in a second. All you have to do is sign up for the program and just pay for the every text or email that you send out. I mean, like it's a custom built Go high level account, and everyone pays through the Twilio. But again, not for this training. All right, so let's talk about this. So like the auto campaigns, this is the important part. Okay, actually, let's do it this way. I'm going to do 2 different versions, one with a clear path and one without a clear path. Okay, for leads that have a clear path and leads that don't have a clear path. If it has a clear path, you must immediately go to a starting offer. Okay, submit a starting offer. You get feedback, which is also a counter. Okay, you're going to get this, and then you're immediately going to pitch either an exclusive or pitch off market. Okay, you're either going to pitch, so you're immediately going to submit. If it has a clear path to making money, right? Yes, to making money, you're going to immediately submit a starting offer. You're going to get feedback or a counter, and then you're going to immediately pitch an exclusive. and or pitch it off market. And then after that, you're going to go back to the starting beginning, which is, trying to get to negotiations, which we'll talk about later, which will lead to acceptance. Okay? You're going to pitch this deal, right? Pitch off market, right? This is like pitch the deal off market, try to get true offers. That's what this means. Okay? So again, you submit, if it has a clear path, you're going to immediately submit a starting offer because you underwrote it and knew exactly how to come up with the value. You're then going to get feedback and a counter from this individual. They're going to go, like, as an example, this guy wanted, I'm going to give you an example of a deal we're working on right now. We had a seller. This guy wanted $11 million, which we closed on this deal already. So the guy wanted $11 million. We underwrote it. We felt like it was a clear path. We submitted a starting offer at $8 million. Okay. Because we felt like it was worth somewhere between $9 and $10.5 million. Okay. We already knew the value. So we offered him $8 million. He came back to us and said, I need to have $10.5 million. No problem. We got the feedback in the counter. We pitched an exclusive. He didn't want us to list it for sale, but he said you can sell it to your investors. We immediately pitched the offer out. We offered it out at $11 million. We ended up getting an offer, a true offer, which we ended up taking, which was at $10.5 million. And we negotiated it back and forth, and we got to an acceptance. We closed it we closed it 2 weeks ago, the beginning of October, and we made $200,000 on that deal. Okay. This had a clear path to transaction. We got the deal accepted within, I think, 3 to 4 weeks. Okay. We got an accepted offer on this deal in 3 to 4 weeks. We knew we had a clear path. We got to work as fast as humanly possible. This is the process to convert deals that have a clear path. Now, like you said, it moves fast. It will go quickly. Most of these deals will go within a week or a month. Okay. These will sell quickly. And this is where we spend 80% of our time to try to convert as many deals as humanly possible when it comes to, where we're spending our time on the leads once we've generated them. Okay. Now, leads without a clear path. This is where a lot of time, energy, and effort is going to go into it. Okay. Let me explain. Okay. So what's going to happen here is the following. If they don't have a clear path, which is, again, they are price-driven majority, right? Most of the time. These are price-driven sellers. These are individuals who are open to the idea of selling, but they're very price-driven. Where it's like, if you don't get me my price, I don't need to sell it. Or they're like, yeah, look, I'm maybe open to the idea of selling next year, just not really motivated right now. I'm not interested in selling right now. That's what all this means. They're not interested in selling right now for a fair and reasonable price. That's all that a clear path is explaining, and they do not have a clear path. Okay? What you're going to do is the following. You're immediately going to attach them to a campaign. Okay. Again, these will be auto campaigns. So I'm going to write, auto campaigns. This is exactly like we talked about. This is going to be the texts. This is going to be the emails and the ringless voicemails. Okay. That automatically go out automatically. You can custom build them out. I would tell you that these should last. You should have ones that last, by the way, these should last basically forever. Okay, very long time, 3 to 10 years. Mine lasts 10 years. The ones that you're going to get access to, one of them lasts 10 years. Okay, it's completely built out for you. It has like 100 automations already built into one campaign as an example. It's all the text messages, emails, and ringless voicemails that my team would send out as an example. Okay, so you first put them on an auto campaign. That's number one. Okay, number two, this is one. Number two is you're going to call them. Okay, because you want to use the technology. Number two, you're going to call them. Okay, and you're going to call them either quarterly, okay, or every 6 months. Either is fine. Again, we try to err on the side of quarterly. That's our process right now, and we have 2 different buckets you can put them in, depending on the lead quality. Right, if there's someone who's not really interested in selling long term, right? They just, they told you like, look, I'm not interested in selling. Thanks, have a nice day. These are going to be a little bit longer term. We'll do every 6 months. If they're a little bit shorter term, we'll call them quarterly. Now, we also have, so let me even break it down a little bit further, but I don't want to get into the nitty gritty here. We basically have a 90-day in our team or a 12-month option. Now, the way this is what we named it. We never really changed it since day one, but a 90-day is someone who wants to sell, okay? And then 1 year or less. So it's 12 months or less. Okay? 12 months is 12 months or more. This is a 12 months plus time frame. So if it's a 90-day or less, we'll actually call them every 30 days. Okay? If it's a 90-day, it's every 30 days, we'll call them once a month. If it's a 12-month campaign, we'll call them quarterly or every 6 months. It's really that simple. We've only put them in 2 buckets. Well, I wanted to make our business so freaking simple that anybody can come into it and do well, right? So you only have 2 buckets to follow up with somebody in. It's either a 90-day bucket where we'll call them once a month. And again, the automation is slightly different. This automation only goes, the automated campaign will go for a year, okay? Lasts a year. And what we try to do is we try to figure out, hey, within this campaign, either one of it's the 90-day or the 12 months, the 12-month lasts 10 years, the 90-day lasts a year. And the whole purpose here is from these campaigns, right? They're on a campaign. We just want to figure out, hey, are you going to move up or are you going to move down? Okay? If they're moving up, they go into a clear path and they go through this process. And if they move down, they go into the farther 12-month campaign. Right? And if they're in a 12-month campaign, they either get restarted on a 12-month campaign once we've spoken to them, right? Or they're going to go into a 90-day or a clear path, like an active the active try to close the deal campaign, right? That's it. There's not unlimited options. Stop giving unlimited options. It's like, okay, is this going to be someone who's not going to really sell right now whatsoever? We'll put them on a 12-month. Are they somebody who's probably going to sell within the next 12 months, right, or within the next year? Or are they somebody who's going to sell right away? That's all I want to know. If they're either going to move up or they're going to move down. That's it, right? And I just want to know, like, hey, if they're going to move up, we just got to move them into the next process. And in the next process, if it's a clear path, this is what you do. And if it's in like a 12-month campaign right now because they're not interested in selling, they go, hey, probably call me back in the new year. We're going to be ready to sell then. It's October now. Put them in a 90-day campaign and call them every 30 days. You put them in an automatic campaign. It's already custom built out for you. All you have to do is, by the way, I would just tell you, ChatGPT can easily be a friend of yours and say, hey, I'm in commercial real estate. This is all you have to do for a prompt. My name is Henry Eisenstein with EXP Commercial. I am a commercial real estate agent, and I have thousands of seller leads who are interested in selling over the next year, 2, 3, 4, or 5. Can you please help me create an automatic campaign using text messages, emails, and ringless voicemails, and give me an outline of exactly what each should say, and the campaign should last 12 months or whatever you want to say, okay? And you can easily do that. Now, I have exactly what mine says in CRE Sync, so if you're interested in getting that, you can get that later, right? But for you, it doesn't have to be that complicated. Don't make it that complicated, right? So you can literally just type it in ChatGPT, give it this prompt, and by the way, you're going to have to go back and forth a few times, refine it, maybe make some tweaks, and then all you have to do is plug it into your CRM system and let it run, right? Because like once it runs, all you have to do is then focus on the calling, right? So once you have them on an automatic campaign, right, you're going to call them either once a month or quarterly, or call it every, minimally every 6 months if it's a 12-month campaign. And that's the simplicity of the game, right? Now, look, could you get a little bit creative? Could you get a little bit creative here? We're going to talk about creative for a moment, okay? Number one, for creative stuff, you can advise I'm going to talk about a podcast for a second, okay? Podcasts. You're going to get into content a little bit. Podcasts, this is for like top tier leads, okay? Top tier leads. These are going to be people where you can do a podcast with a top tier lead, right? And just learn about their story, right? Get to know them a little bit, because this will basically give you 1 hour of connection with the individual, okay? Very simple. You can record it on Zoom. You can go meet them in person, do a podcast, right? It can be a really simple thing. Because a lot of people, what they used to do is that we were told to go to lunch. Here's the problem with going to lunch with somebody who's worth $50 million. What benefit does it give them? Nothing. They don't need you to buy them lunch, right? I can afford my lunch, right? If you're going to call me up and try to like meet me fun, I don't need to meet you fun. I don't want to spend an hour doing that. But if you go, hey, can I have you on my podcast? I'm much more interested, because that brings me value, right? Gets my brand out there, my name out there. As an investor myself, I would want to do that. We found that a lot of our top tier leads, people who are very successful, love doing podcasts. Huge opportunity of doing value. Okay. Number 2, right? To try to be creative, right? Follow them on social. Follow on social if they have a social, right? Make sure they follow you. And the reason why I say this is because your content is very valuable for follow-up. Right, it's an automatic way where people can be in touch with you and constantly let your content do the work. Because I have some, people who've been with me for a long time, like leads that have been following my journey for a very long time. Okay, they watch my content. A lot of them love the content, right? And then I get calls all the time, like, "Hey, just saw your video. Just want to say, you're doing an awesome job. Let's connect later next week. I have a new deal I want to work on with you." It's an easy way for your social media to basically do follow-up for you. Okay. Next one, you can even do masterminds. Okay. You can invite a bunch of investors to meet other investors. You provide the value, right? You as a broker can start, hosting masterminds, which can even just be a meetup. Okay. Do a meetup, an investor meetup, and where you can have like these investor meetups. This will be incredibly valuable, right, to your buyer clients, right? Very valuable to buyers. So if you have some investors that you want to build relationships with, bring them in a room with a bunch of other investors, right? This works for buyers specifically. Very, 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 very good for high-level buyers, okay? Number 4, video messages. Okay? Video messages are super powerful as well. This is literally like you take your phone. Okay? Take my phone for a second. You take your phone like this, okay? And all you're going to do is be like, hey, John, it's Henry, EXP Commercial. Just wanted to send you a super quick video. I was thinking about you over the week because I actually passed one of the properties that we had sold for you in the past, which I know that, was a great experience. I just want to say thank you so much for allowing us to be able to support you. And just wanted to reach out to you again and see that you and the family are doing wonderful. I actually have a couple new off-market investment deals that I'd love to run past you to see if you might be taking a look at something. And if you're interested in getting a value on anything else that you have, just let me know. Super interested in connecting. Hope all is well again. Have a great day and talk to you soon. That's it, okay? And that's obviously on the fly. Depends on the situation. Try to, give you a little bit of a blended type of response there. But if they're a seller, reconnect with them. If they're a buyer, you can reconnect with them. If you want a referral from them, like, hey, hey, John, it's Henry EXP Commercial. I just wanted to say thank you for the referral you gave me last time. I super, super appreciate you thinking about me. In the past, it meant the world to me. If you happen to have anybody else in your life that maybe you feel like I could support, just let me know, right? Anything that you can to constantly be in touch with people's lives, video messages go a long way. Most people are not doing them at all, okay? Number 5, we're going to bring it back. Handwritten letters. Still crushes. Handwritten letters still crushes. All you have to do for a handwritten letter, by the way, is you get a colorful envelope, light blue, yellow, orange, green, something that stands out, right? Really flashy colors. Get us something like that for the envelope, okay? And then you can put your normal card in there and just send them a handwritten letter. You'd be surprised of how far that goes. And by the way, you don't need to have your business, you can have your business card in there, I guess, if it's a little bit of an older individual. But most newer individuals, I would just do a scan of a QR code where they have your contact card, right? You can actually do this right on that card. Hey, scan for my contact. Scan the QR code. It goes right to their phone. You have their, they have your contact information. Obviously, you'll have theirs, but you can send their, a QR code, right? So, anyways, really, really simple these days. Don't make it complicated. These are some just super creative ways that you can get back in touch with some clients utilizing follow-up. And by the way, the whole purpose of follow-up here is, again, to just move them up or move them down. This is when it comes to conversion. I want to know, hey, are we moving your timeline, right? For us making money, are we moving it up or are we moving it back, right? And like, I'm just trying to move, as many of these pieces, right? Like if I have all these different deals here, okay, on this horizon, and I have all these other deals, right, that are on this board, right? And then this is the closing table, right? I'm just trying to move these pieces up a little bit or up a little bit or up a little bit, right? That's the whole point of follow-up. That's what conversion is, right? It's just taking all these leads, these are leads, right? And just moving them up in the pipeline. That's all we're trying to do, right? That's what follow-up is. So don't overcomplicate the simplicity of the game. Utilize technology today and make sure that you just never lose a lead ever again by spending more time on the hottest leads first, right? Because what you're going to do is you're going to start with your, your lead flow is going to be hot, warm, cold, nurture. Okay? So when I'm doing all my tasks, I start with my hottest leads first, then I go to my warm, then I go to cold, and then I do all my follow-up campaign later stuff, okay? And now it goes in this order every single day, right? So I do my hottest lead stuff like first, because if my day gets screwed up here, thank God I did my hot stuff, right? Then I try to get to warm, and I try to even have some times where like, hey, I'm going to block off an extra 1 to 2 hours just to make sure I don't have overdue tasks, because I don't want to have overdue tasks. No one likes overdue tasks, right? overdue tasks is an absolute nightmare to try to clean up. And a lot of people have them, right? I've had them in my career too. The problem is when you have a lot of overdue tasks, it's hard to clean them up. And then the only way to really get through them is then through hand dialing or cold calling them again, right? So try to just make sure your database is manageable, and you guys are going to do fantastic. Let's dive into the next point here. Okay, next point on our list, number 3 of our 5 core activities, right? Number 3, very important. We're going to spend some good time here, is pitching deals. Okay, very important task. Now that you generated the leads, right, and you converted on them, and you're working on your conversion to try to find the ones that have the highest or the most likely to sell, right, have the highest level of a clear path to transaction, right? You're going to have to sell some deals, right? Like we talked about, vetting them during the qualification process, and then you have to pitch the deal. Now let's talk about this. One of the biggest mistakes that I see, okay, this is a mistake that I notice, right? Mistake is that a lot of brokers only focus on exclusives. Okay, that in my opinion is a mistake. People who only focus on exclusives are a mistake. Okay, there's so much money to be made in the commercial real estate business, where if you only focused on leads that have, again, a high quality, high likelihood of making money, right? Ones that have a clear path to transacting, right? The problem is that too many brokers only focus on exclusives. And if they don't want to sign an exclusive, this is what happens, right? When you make this mistake, you go, if they don't want to sign an exclusive, right? No exclusive equals no ability to sell the deal. That's what happens. If you don't get an exclusive, no ability to sell the deal. This is a mistake. This is a huge mistake. Okay? Where I see way too many brokers who are like, oh, I have this deal where I think it's actually pretty good. I think we can make some money there. But, okay, big but, is that there's no, they don't want to sign an exclusive, so I can't make any money. That is a big mistake, and it's also incorrect. It's actually completely false. This, okay, is false. Okay, because 98%, okay, of our closings, okay, my closings, okay, are off market. 98% of my closings are off market. No exclusive necessary. Okay? We don't worry about exclusives. We get a lot of them, but we don't need them, right? We don't need an exclusive to make money, right? No exclusive, right? Or even let me say it this way. An exclusive does not equal money, right? A deal equals money. If they don't want to sign an exclusive, that's okay. But what's more important is that it's a quality deal, right? A clear path transaction, right? A deal makes money, right? You don't need an exclusive to make money in this business. You need to find a high quality deal. That's one of the most important factors here, okay? So when we find a good quality deal that has a clear path to transaction, we're going to make some money and we're going to pitch it out. Let's talk about pitching that deal though, okay? Because just because you have a deal that has a clear path, right? Once you have this here, right, you now have to pitch out to investors, your buyers. Okay? Now, there's a couple things that are very important here. When you're pitching a deal out to investors, a couple things that are incredibly important, right? A couple things that are incredibly important here. Okay? So when you're pitching it out to investors, we're going to follow this process. Okay, here we go. Number one, 100% of the time, call to pitch. Okay, so if you want to sell deals over the phone, right, or if you want to sell deals, or again, you're going to start pitching deals, you must 100% of the time do it over the phone. The mistake is that a lot of people just stop sending me, right? I'm just going to go here. Stop sending an email and crossing your fingers. No, we don't do this. Stop doing it. Please stop doing it. Okay? You want 100% of the time be on the phone. So when you want to sell a deal, you don't just send an email and hope and pray. We don't do that. We don't do that anymore. Right? What we do is that we make, well, if I'm going to sell a deal, or if my team members are going to sell a deal, my coaching students are going to sell a deal, 100% of the time, it's over the phone. 100% of the time. Now, why do you do this? Why do you think we do that? Put in the chat. Why do you think we do this, by the way? I'm just going to read some of the questions here we have in the chat, or some of the other things in the chat. Why do you think we do this? Why do you think we do this only 100% over the phone? Why is this so important? Why is that important? Well, let me explain. So what we do to make sure, in order to get a deal sold, is that instead of just sending an email, which you have no ability to handle objection, right? Because if you send a deal and you hope and pray, and then you send an email, and then guess what happens, by the way? What happens when you guys send an email? What happens when you send an email and you just cross your fingers and hope and pray? What do you think happens majority of the time, right? You don't get a response, right? How many people has that happened to? It's happened to me before in the past, right? Well, it's happened to me too. So what happens here is that you don't have the ability to overcome objections, right? So when you're on the phone, you have the ability to be nimble and maneuver through the conversations, right? So when I call you up and I say, hey, Bob, it's Henry, Bob the buyer. It's Henry EXP commercial. I have another deal for you I want to discuss with you. Do you have a minute? And he goes, yes, I have a minute. Great. Next question, very important. Now that you called him on the phone, you confirm that he has a minute to talk, okay? Because you want to confirm time. Immediately, you want to confirm availability, and two things. You want to confirm that they're available to talk about this deal, and you want to confirm that they are, I'm trying to see the best way to explain this. Availability and in front of a computer. Again, for me, it's like, can you look up a property? That's the best way to explain it, right? Are you in a place where are you available, right? Do you have a few minutes to talk? And then are you in a place where you can look up a property real quick? Okay. I want to make sure you can do both. Okay. It doesn't have to be in front of a computer. It can be on your phone. But are you in a place, I'll even say this, and look up property. Okay. Confirm that they're available and that they can look up a property. Why do we do this? Because this is a huge aspect to pitching a deal. Because when you send a deal via an email and you hope and pray, number one, you don't get, you're sending to them when you have no idea if they're available. And you're also expecting them to respond to you by reviewing the deal, giving you their feedback without you having to do any work. Okay. Well, let me explain to you what happens. This is the interesting thing. When you call somebody up and I say, hey, Bob, it's Henry again, EXP commercial. Again, I'm assuming I talked to this person before. They're a buyer that's vetted. We know their information. I have a deal that I think it has a clear path to transacting, right? Like this is only specifically for deals that have a clear path to making money, right? This is, a deal. Okay. Bob, do you have 2 minutes? Yes, I do. Okay, cool. Are you in a place where you can look up a property real quick? I want to discuss one with you. Great. Yeah, yes, I am. I'm in my office. I'm on my phone. Let me look it up. Okay. Now, what this now does is a few things. One, I have his 100% undivided attention, which you don't get with an email. Number two, very important, is that I now have him in real time looking up and reviewing a deal where my objective, okay, because number three is understanding objective. Understand objective. Which is, what is the objective of pitching a deal? What is the objective when you're pitching a deal? Is to get an offer. Get an offer. The whole objective is to get an offer. Okay? We call them true offers. Okay? True offers. We call them true offers, because when we submit starting offers, right, those are not from a true buyer. Those are specifically from me as an example to start the negotiation process. but we know, like, okay, is that a true offer or a starting offer? No. Like, again, it's a true offer. We pitched it out to a buyer, Bob the buyer, and we got an offer from him, and, at X price. I don't care what the price is, but I want, again, we get a true offer from that individual, because I understand the objective. The whole objective of this phone call is to get an offer from this individual, right? I'm not getting off the phone until I have a clear idea of where his offer would be. What would he be willing to put in writing? Okay, that's going to be the specific question. Because now, when we're doing this pitching process, I'm going to walk you through this, right? But it's understanding here is make sure you're going to do it 100% on the phone, right? You don't need to be in person, but you can do it over the phone. Don't do this via an email. Confirm their availability. We'll make sure they're in a place where they can look up the property. And understand, before you even dive deeper into the conversation, we want to make sure we get an offer. The whole purpose of this call is to get an offer. Okay, so we're not getting off this call until I can get an offer, which is the goal. Okay, now number 4 was, we're going to talk about the pitch. The pitch. Okay, now the pitch is going to be very interesting. The pitch is going to be a lot about what information is most important to the buyer. Now, when you have a brand new buyer, when you have a newer buyer you've never done any business with, the pitch is going to be a little bit more tweaked, which I'm going to explain to you. You got to tweak it a little bit. But when you know this person, you're going to make it a more custom pitch to that individual. So let me explain. What that means is, when you're talking to somebody in the pitch, now it's like, now they look at, like, what happens is that they're available, they're looking up the property. Say, hey, Bob, can you look up, do you have 2 minutes for me? Yeah. And also, are you in front of a computer where you can look up something? Yeah, I'm at my office. Give me the address, right? I give him the address. The property address is 123 Main Street. And by the way, some of you are like, do you give him an address even if you don't have an NDA or an exclusive or all that kind of stuff? Yes, I do. Okay? I give them the address because they're going to need it. I give them a rent roll because they're going to need it. Now, if a seller says, hey, can you sign an NDA or get doc sign and whatever to protect, 100% of the time we do. We follow orders, right? We follow what, the regulations and restrictions and everything we need to, right? We follow that. All the guidelines and whatever, we follow that. However, if a seller doesn't care, we don't need to care, right? It's okay. So, in the pitch, I'm gonna give you 2 different situations. Let's say I don't know who I don't know them that well, but we vetted them. Because, by the way, it's very important to understand, when you're pitching a deal. Okay, this is going to be a subcategory of number 4, right? Vetted buyers only. When you're pitching these deals on the phone, I'll explain how to do it to non-vetted ones, okay? But vetted buyers only. Now, this pitch is going to be custom, okay? Custom tailored to the people you know. So let's talk about somebody that you do know. Let's say that you vetted this person, you talked to them a bunch of times, you know them, and you're pretty friendly, okay? You know each other pretty well. I know, or let's say we know, we're partners, and we know that this individual likes value-add deals. We know they like buying a shopping center, as an example. They like, getting good cash and cash returns. Like, like maybe you've sold them a deal before. You just know the criteria of what they're looking for. Okay. The reason why I'm going to explain to you, because it's very understanding to custom tailor the pitch to the things that actually get them to tick, right? Like, you want them to, like, or you want to explain the things that they would be most interested in understanding, instead of saying the same thing to somebody you don't. Let me explain. So if we know that they buy shopping centers, they want high cash and cash returns day one. They want like 7 to 10% day one. They want value add shopping centers. Like, we know that for a fact. And like, they like buying cap rates of 7+. Okay. So immediately when I call him up, I'm immediately going to say those 3 or 4 things. Exactly what I know he wants to hear. Bob, so listen, this deal, I as soon as we got it, I thought about you. Okay. This is a shopping center, a value add shopping center. It's a day 1 7.25 cap. The guy's open. The guy's ready for seller financing. Okay. He's open to seller financing. Okay. He doesn't own any money on it. He's open to seller financing. And he's willing to do it at 20% down. Okay. Strong cash on cash. I think we can achieve some pretty strong cash on cash day one. This guy's pretty flexible on interest rate, right? Where I think you could have a really strong cash flow day one and have some decent, if not great, upside in this deal. Okay. This guy wants to sell quickly and he's talking about putting it on the market. So I want to get an offer before it hits the market. Okay. I just sent you an email with a rent roll and the P&L. Let's review it real quick. Let's dive in. So I'm immediately going to start talking about the deal. I didn't even say a price. I don't got to say, all this type of, I don't have to go into super detail. Oh, well, and this tenant's paying this and this tenant's paying that. I don't need to say all that kind of stuff. I just want to point out what's most important to this buyer. Okay. Very different than if I don't know the buyer that well. And so I call Bob the mysterious buyer. I vetted him out. Okay, he's qualified. I vetted him. We'll talk about that in a moment. But I don't know this guy very well. Maybe we have 2 conversations with a guy. Let's say, hey, Bob, it's Henry Eisenstein, EXP Commercial. We've spoken a few times about finding you some off-market deals in New Jersey. How you doing? Doing great, thanks. Hey, just I have a new deal I wanted to discuss with you. Do you have 2 minutes? Yes. Okay, and also, are you in front of a computer or a place where you can look up a property? No, I'm not. I'm in the car. Great. So why don't I call you later? This is just a quick example. Let me call you back. Like, when do you think you'll be in a place where you can look up a property? This way you're not distracted. I'll be available in an hour. Great. Bob, I'm going to call you back in an hour. And if you don't answer, just call me back when you have 2 minutes. Okay. And if I don't hear from you today, I'll call you tomorrow. Is that fair? Yes. Cool. So I'm trying to book a call from that call, right? I'm not going to give him all the deals. I'm not going to pitch him while he's in the car. He can't look up the property. Okay. Now situation, he goes, no, I'm available. I'm in front of my computer. Let's look. What's the address? I'm going to give him the address. I'm going to go, Bob, just curious, what information would be most important to you to see today in order to know if you can make an offer on this deal? Well, I need to see a rent roll and a P&L. Awesome. So I just sent you an email, has a rent roll and a P&L. Okay. This deal, again, I'm not going to say the same thing because I don't know what's most important to him, right? He says he wants a rent roll and P&L. I'm going to talk about the rent roll and the P&L, right? Did you get the email? I just sent, by the way, I want to always have like a drafted email, right? You confirm that. Understand the objective. You can even say like quick side note, draft email with all docs. Ready to go. Ready to go. Very important piece because when you're on the phone with somebody, I want to be like, hey, I just sent you an email. Okay, can you check it out for me? But I only want to send them that email with the pertaining information, which has the OM, the rent roll, all the docs that, P&L or whatever docs that are pertaining to this property. I only want to send him this email. I don't pray across my fingers. I want to make sure he's in a place right now where he can review everything. Okay. So when I'm talking to him, I'm going to send him the email and we're going to talk through the deal. And I'm going to talk about every part of the deal. All right. And again, like, listen, this is a, based on the information he provided me, maybe he said he wants a value add shopping center between, $2 and $10 million in Monmouth County, New Jersey. Okay. It's where I grew up. So I'm going to be like, listen, Bob, this is like you told me, you're looking for value add shopping centers in between 2 and 10 million in New Jersey. Here's a shopping center. It's $5 million. Okay. And there's definitely some decent value add here. Good value add components. Got a little bit of vacancy. Gives you an opportunity to get those units rented, and the property is rented at a little bit below market rents. Okay. And it's a day 1, 6.5% cap rate. I think we can get them maybe closer to 7, right? Based on the price of $5 million, right? So when we go into this deal, right, I already know, right, based on his criteria, he would be most interested in this property. Okay. Now it's a little bit different, obviously custom tailored to your specific buyer because I can't go into any specific details other than what he's given me. So the more information you're given, the easier it is to custom pitch the deal to their liking, right? Custom to the buyer. I say, / criteria, their criteria. That's why it's important to vet them out. Okay. So now when you have all those types of information, it gives you the ability to work through their objections. Oh, well, I don't really like the deal. I've heard this a million times, and they say, like, well, the deal is just not for me. Who here has heard that before? The deal is just not for me. Well, the cool thing about being on the phone is you have the ability to then pivot and then go say, okay, well, tell me, because you told me you were looking for value add shopping centers, 7% cap rates or higher in this location. And that's exactly what this is. I'm curious, what am I misunderstanding? And you need to practice being that direct. Because if someone says it's not for them, after they've specifically told you they're looking for this type of property, they're about to give you absolute golden information. Okay? Very crucial. Because what they're about to tell you is either why the deal actually doesn't make any sense and maybe you're missing something, or you miss something about them. Let me explain. So Bob might respond in a couple ways. Bob goes, listen, yeah, look, I'm looking for value add shopping centers, but this deal is at $270 a square foot, and there's really not any value add here, right? There's not any value add. Like, I think that this is top of the market type of stuff. There's no more room to squeeze. Like, just because maybe there's a little bit of vacancy doesn't mean there's major upside in this deal, right? Like, there's maybe not a lot of upside in this deal. Something that maybe you missed when you were underwriting. Okay. Number one. Number two, he goes, actually, the cap rate's not what it's not a 7 cap. It's closer to a 5 cap. You didn't include vacancy management or maintenance. You didn't include, certain things, or he didn't realize it's actually triple net and it does cover those things. And you have to work through those types of things that maybe they're going to make up or not understand based on the information you provided. Okay. They could also say, yeah, but like I do want something in this county, but this isn't a city that I actually do not like buying properties in. It's, it's rent controlled. It's got this, a really terrible. I just got a very interesting lead actually in a decent area in New Jersey, and it's a great price per square foot. But the zoning officer in that market is the worst in the entire state. He's an absolute pain in the butt to deal with. And I have a few friends who own in that city. It's a very difficult market for industrial properties. Okay, so it's a it's a roadblock. Like, you're looking for basically roadblocks, reasons why this property would not sell. Okay, so once you get all this feedback, because you're on the phone, you can handle the objections, or in real time try to get as much clarity as humanly possible as to why this deal doesn't make sense for you to spend time on. Okay, because you're going back to, hey, is this actually a deal with a clear path? Because maybe it isn't. Or you speak to the buyer and they're like, listen, I just went under contract on a on a $10 million deal. I'm using all my cash. I'm not raising any money from other investors. So like, I'm going to be a little bit preoccupied now. Like, I had an investor who we were doing a lot of business with, and all of a sudden I try to put another deal in front of him. He's like, listen, I'm under contract on 6 deals right now. I don't have any more bandwidth. Right. And why don't you call me in the beginning of the year? Let a few of these deals close out. Let me start working some of these things, and then we'll reload the cash and we'll get busy in 2026. Right. I know now I can't call him up with a new deal in the next month or 2 or 3. Right. It just is what it is. Right. But it's important to be on the phone so you can work through these types of details versus an email where they just respond to you saying no, or you don't get a response at all and you have no idea actually what's going on. Because what you want to figure out through this pitch, right? Because the objection is obviously you want to try to get an offer, which I'm going to explain to you in a moment about the next steps with all this. But the goal is either to get an offer or feedback as to why this deal does not work, either because the deal doesn't work or the buyer you're calling, it doesn't work specifically for them. Okay? Because that means you just have to call another buyer and maybe it will work for them. Because if the deal works and it just doesn't work for your buyer, you can just go find another buyer that it could work for. Okay? So let's continue. I'm just going to make this a little bit smaller here. Okay, this over here. Okay, cool. So let's talk about getting that offer now. Okay, now they say like, well, based on all the information, I like the deal. I just think it's a little bit high in price. Okay, a little high in price. What the hell's going on here? This pen sometimes is. I had to buy new pens and they're not perfect. Little high. Price wise, okay, little high price. Okay, price is a little high for me. What do you do here? Okay, this is very common now. You pitch the deal out, they like the deal, but the price is a little bit high. And what a lot of people do is they try to negotiate price a little bit too early, because there is a too early, and then there's going to be another time where it depends on the deal. Let me explain. Because I don't care if they like the deal. By the way, all investors who are talking to you, a lot of them are going to tell you it's a little bit high in price. Very normal, very common. It's actually a decent thing when I hear that. Okay. Now I'll give you an example of what I hate. Okay. This is a pet peeve of mine. And if you're an investor, I'm talking to you. Okay. This is a pet peeve of mine. I had an investor, a little bit newer investor, but it was referred from a friend of mine. Okay. I don't like working with first-time investors. But I hear this all the time with first-time investors, okay? Which is, this guy calls me up, and and we were introduced through friends, and he goes like, "This is what I'm looking for. I'm looking, and I'm not gonna tell you his name, but this is exactly what he said. He says, I'm looking for medical office buildings, okay? I want medical office in these areas of New Jersey." I said, "Okay, no problem. I'm gonna find you something." I came across a very interesting deal. Now look, it's a little bit high in price, okay? The guy wants a little bit too much money. It's like where's my phone? Let me figure out the cap rate real quick. It's like a 150, very conservatively net income divided into a 7 cap. He wants like a little under a 7 cap. Okay, so let's see. I pitched this deal, I believe, at a 6 cap, 150 divided into 6%. Yeah, I pitched it out at $2.5 million. This is exactly what I did. I said, look, I know it's but this seller is very open to seller financing. Okay. So I pitched it to him at a 6 cap because I called him up. I said, like, what kind of cap rates? And he said, like 6, 6.5, 7, 7.5, somewhere in that range. He's like, I just want something relatively decent with a little bit of upside. Like, he wants a little bit of a value add component. So I sent him this deal. It's in a good location, not a great location, but a good location. It's a solid B plus, A minus location. Okay. The building's condition's okay, but it's got some decent tenants in there. And the building, right, I believe, in my opinion, I think there's some decent value. And not a steal. It's definitely not a steal of a deal. Okay. But I pitched it to him at a 6 cap. Okay. And I told him it has seller 5. Right. So again, I called him up and I said, hey, here's the deal. It's a value add deal. I think there's some decent upside in the rents. Okay. I think you can easily get to $20 a foot triple net. And the building is 13,000 feet. Okay. I think rents are 20 triple net. Okay. So you can get to 20 triple net on this, which is a 260 NOI. This is why I think it's a decent deal. Not amazing, but I think it's a decent, right? I mean, some people might think this is real. I think it could be even good. I think it's a good deal. You can get to a 260 NOI. So you're at a 6 cap now. The offer was at 2.5 million. Okay. The price is 2.5 million. Okay. And it had, I think it was only like 80% occupied. And I pitched him this deal and he goes, it's not for me. Not for me. I said, like we just talked about, well, it's in your location that you're looking for. It's a value add deal and they're open to seller financing. I know the cap rate's a little bit low. And it's not you're not going to be able to quadruple the income, but there's some decent value add here over the next, few years. And he goes, no, it's just not for me. Thanks. That because I was like, can you tell me more? And he's like, listen, I just think the price is too high. And he kept saying this. The price is too high for us. It doesn't make sense at that price. Listen, my pet peeve is when you just keep telling me the price is too high, but the deal fundamentally makes sense. And I know this makes sense because I've done more investment deals than this individual has, right? And I know because it's at a 150 NOI, 150 NOI, okay? I can easily take it to a 10 plus cap in the next 5 years, right? And then my goal would be to take this deal. Let's say that we go to we get it rented fully. Let's do this math together, okay? I'm just doing it on my phone. Let's say we get to a 260 NOI. Let's just say there's 85% net range because you're gonna, even though it's going to be a triple net deal, you're gonna have some, a vacancy rate the bank's going to include. You're going to have some management fees that are not going to be covered by the tenant. You're going to have a little bit of maintenance. Maybe you handle the HVAC system, the roof, and the parking lot as an example. Okay, so 260 times 85% is 221. Okay, 221 divided into a 7.5% cap rate. Okay, is $3 million. Not a steal. But that's at a 7.5 cap, okay? Let's say we do 221 divided into a 7 cap. That's 3.15 million. Definitely some decent upside. And by the way, we're going to talk about this during the negotiation process. I know the seller is willing to take 2.2 million, okay? He's willing to take $2.2 million, okay? So even if I had an offer at 2.3, where I know this deal will easily be worth $3 to $3.5 million, right? It's only 13,000 feet. So 13,000 times 2.5, right, is 3.25 million, right? Like that's probably going to be about as much as it's ever going to be worth for the next little period of time. So this little property, right? I pitched it at 2.5. I know the guy would take probably 2.2. The seller would take 2.2 and pay us a 6-point commission at 2.2, right? Probably at least $100,000, right? He'll net out 2.1. So in my eyes, I'm like, why on planet Earth would you not take this deal? I mean, like, this deal is decent. Like, there's some strong upside. So I'm looking at this from the lens of like, why don't you just make an offer at where you feel like the price should be? He's like, well, no, I don't want to do that, right? Like, he was just completely against it. That is my biggest pet peeve. Don't do that to me. Don't make me find a deal that I know you would like. It has some decent upside, and you wouldn't even make an offer at 1.8 or $2 million. Why not? Why would you not do that? That makes no sense to me. That means that just tells me you're not a serious investor. Because if it checks all the boxes for you, and the only thing that's wrong with it is price, because let me be honest. If this deal was at 1.5 million, a 10 cap day one, where you could double the price, double the value of this deal in less than 5 years, why would you not buy the deal? Right? Anyone would buy the deal. I'd buy the deal in 2 seconds. I'd write him a check tomorrow for $1.5 million. No problem. Right? This deal would be very good. It's not great at 2.5. I agree, but there's a price that it would be very good at. Just make an offer at any price in which it would be good at. So let's talk about that specifically, right? I want to get an offer from somebody. Now, most of the time, again, when we have a vetted, serious buyer, right, you're going to be able to get offers pretty reasonably. You're going to be able to get an offer. That's a pretty normal thing, okay? But I'm going to explain to you how you're going to get that offer. They're going to say like, well, listen, the price is a little bit high. Okay, great. I can understand. I can appreciate that, right? I'm going to say like, Bob, I can appreciate that. Let me know this. What is the best offer, best terms you're willing to put in writing? This is exactly what I said to my guy, and he still said nothing. But for you, it works. I'm telling you, if they're a serious buyer, it's going to work almost every time. So the question is the following. What is the best terms you are willing to put in writing? Okay? This is the question you need to ask as soon as they say the price is too high on the phone. I can appreciate that. What is the best terms you are willing to put in writing? Okay? Because this is a great question, and you're going to get great feedback from it. Okay? And let's just say, just like the deal, let's say I pitched it to this guy, and this guy's actually a serious investor. And he goes, listen, best deal I'm probably wanting to do is like, I told him 2.5. He goes, I'll do $2 million, $50,000 deposit. I'll do a 30-day due diligence, 30-day close. Okay, cool. No problem. I'm going to draft the letter of intent. This is exactly what I'll say afterwards. He's going to tell me, I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to put that into a letter of intent, and I'm going to send it to you for signature today. And then we're going to give it to the, we'll present it to the seller, and we're going to try to get a deal negotiated. Is that fair? Awesome. So what happens now, hold on. The only thing I'm going to explain a few things in a moment. Okay. If he gives me a reasonable offer, which I think is anywhere near reasonable, where the seller's not going to freak the heck out. Okay. I'm going to push to get that drafted ASAP. Now, let's just say this guy said, because it's a 150 NOI, let's say this guy said, I would probably have to buy it at like $1.5 million to make any sense of this. Okay, a 10 cap, which is completely unreasonable. I offered the seller, by the way, day one, 1.6 to 1.7. Okay, that was my starting offer. He says it's a little high at 2.5, and I say, well, at what price would you make sense? What is the best price, or what are the best terms you are willing to put in writing? I say the same thing. Okay, and he says, listen. Best price or best terms I'm going to do is 1.7 million, $10,000 deposit, and 60-day due diligence, 60-day close. Well, an offer that basically is I'm not interested. What I'm going to put it right back on him. There's a couple things you can say. Let's say, well, Bob, based on the offer you just provided me, it really doesn't seem like you're very interested in this deal. Can I ask you why you're not interested in this deal? Well, it's not in a location I like, so it has to be a really good price for me to make sense of moving forward. Okay. Well, you told me you were looking in this location. You told me you're looking at, different things, right? Like you told me you're looking in this location. You told me that, you're looking for medical office buildings with decent upside, decent value add, ones with seller financing, whatever it is. Can you tell me why you're coming in at such an aggressive offer? Because we have offers that are higher than this, right? He's like, well, I'm in a little bit of a cash crunch. Like I'm doing X, Y, and Z. I just don't have the bandwidth to do this deal, right? So you're going to figure it out. You got to ask the questions, be okay and comfortable, pushing back a little bit. Like, hey, we already have offers higher than this. Like, especially if they go in with a really low offer. Listen, we already have offers higher than that, right? That he's declined, right? You and I both know that this is a reasonable deal somewhere in X range. So I would say like, hey, if I know the seller's willing to take 2.2, I pitched it to him at 2.5, which I'll explain the negotiations why we do that. And I talked to the buyer, and they're like, well, they want to come in at 1.7 or 1.8. I mean, listen, you and I both know this is a decent deal. The guys want to do seller financing. There's some decent upside in this deal. It could probably be a $20 a foot triple net rent. You could easily get the income from 150 to 220, 250 in the next 3 to 5 years. Could you be somewhere reasonable with a 2 in front of it? Could you be over that? Could you be in that range? And if he still says no, what do we know now? What do we know? Well, we know that this buyer is probably not going to be the best one for this deal. He might not be the right buyer for this deal. And that's okay, by the way, because I just want to vet both the deal and the buyer every time we pitch a deal. Okay? So when you're speaking to them, you want to try to get what is the best terms you're willing to put in writing 100% of the time, every time. Now, if they also say the deal is just not for me, you want to make sure you go into more questions. So that's obviously price. Now it's just like, now let's just say you're going to go 2 different directions. Let's say the deal sucks, right? Anything bad about the deal. The deal is not great. Okay. You can still they're going to say like, well, not the price is too high. We're going to say that the deal is just not good. Like this is not a good deal. This is not, this is not something that I would ever buy. Okay. You can reiterate. It's like, well, you said you were looking for X, Y, and Z and X location, X price, X cap, all that kind of stuff. And you're going to try to get more information. And then what happens is that they might educate you. Some of the best education I've gotten in my entire career over the last decade of being in the commercial real estate business are from my investors giving me a better education on the deal. And I'm very grateful for their education because it taught me how to look at deals differently. Because, again, I've been in the business now almost 11 years, right? I had to learn the process just like a lot of you, right? So that all being said, it's like you're going to go through this process over and over again. And if they say they don't like the deal, ask a lot of questions. What doesn't make it a good deal for you? Why do you think it's not a good deal? It's a seven cap day one. They want seller financing. At what terms, blah, 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 right? Where do you think we need to be in order to even be at a place where you feel like you'd be comfortable putting an offer in writing, right? So you can keep going into that. Last piece here, okay? Whether the price is a little high, deal sucks, right? The last piece that you're probably going to get on the phone here is that I need more time. Okay, last thing you're going to see is a time thing. Okay, if you get a time objection, which is just like, hey, like it's just not the right time for me, or I need more time to review it, give me the weekend, whatever you say. Okay, first thing you're going to do is somewhere like that. You're going to try to just get an exact time frame of how much they need. Okay, how much more time do you need in order to make an offer on this deal? Because I have a few other people who are interested, and if you're interested in this deal, I want to hold off for you specifically. Okay, so whenever they give you a time objection, I need more time. Can you give me a day? Can you give me a week? Can you give me a weekend? Whatever. Get a time frame from this individual. Great. So when can I call you back where you've had enough time to review it and we can get an offer written up? Well, I need till Tuesday. I need till Monday. Give me the weekend. Whatever they're going to say. Okay, you get that, and you're like, okay, can we book a call? Can we book a call for Monday morning 9 a.m. whenever they need it? Okay, great. When can we book a call for Monday? You said you need till Monday. No problem. When on Monday can I call you back to try to get an offer? Call me back Monday, 10 o'clock. Okay, great. I'll give you a call Monday, 10 o'clock, and that'll give you enough time to make an offer? Yes. Okay, cool. So no matter what, we're still following the process to trying to get to the point where we can get an offer in writing. Okay? Book a meeting from a meeting. Like, very, very important, right? You're going to want to try to, if it's anything with a time objection, you're on a book a meeting from the meeting. Great. When can we schedule the next call so that we can get something in writing? Okay? Does everybody understand the pitch process? Who here has any questions, by the way, about the lead gen process, the lead conversion or lead follow-up process, or the pitching process? Who here has any questions so far? Because we're about to go into activity number 4. Okay? Activity number 4. Okay, if you guys are enjoying this, make sure you guys give this a thumbs up wherever you guys are watching this content. Make sure you give it a thumbs up right now. We're going to go into number 4. Make sure you guys follow me wherever you guys are tuning in from. Number 4. Number 4. Here we go. Negotiations. Negotiations. Okay. Negotiations. Okay. So number 4, negotiations. Let's talk about negotiating. So when you're trying to negotiate a deal, there's a lot of moving parts. A lot of moving parts. And there's a lot of mistakes that people make when negotiating. And let me explain to you a few of them. The number 1 mistake. You ready for this one? This one is costly, and it's cost a lot of agents that I know and a lot of new students who come to me who don't understand this mistake. That a lot of them come to me because they continue to make this mistake. Okay, so this number 1 mistake is they don't. Okay, or agents. Okay, agents don't add comp to seller ask. Okay. The biggest mistake that happens with agents is that the agents don't add compensation to the seller's asking price. Let me explain to you what this means. Okay, so let's just say you got a lead, like we talked about in the past. You got a lead. You're going to qualify, and during the qualification process, they told you all the details, right? And then they gave you their asking. And let's just say in this instance, right? Let's say in this instance they told you $5 million. I want $5 million for this deal. Okay, so you're negotiating a deal. You got this lead. You're qualified. You got all the details on the property, and they gave you this. They gave you an asking price of $5 million. Okay, this is a very common thing. They're going to tell you some price that they want. Very normal. Okay, so you get this $5 million in the chat below. Okay, if you're with me here live, What price would you pitch this deal out? If you got a seller and they say, hey, I want $5 million for this property. What price would, because the next thing, once you've gotten all this information, you're going to do two things, right? You're obviously going to send a starter, right? You're going to send a starter, and then you're going to have to pitch it out. Once you get feedback, right? You get feedback, let's say even from the counter, right? Even from the feedback and the counter you got is at $5 million. Then you got to pitch this deal out to those buyers. We just talked about pitching a deal, right? At what price, if this is the price the seller said that they want, at what price would you pitch this out to your investors? This is a very important thing because a lot of people mess this piece up. Okay, let me explain. I'm going to show you right here. I'm going to give you an example because I already had this wrote this down in a previous talk. So give me 1 second. Here you go. So let's talk about this. So in this instance, the seller wants $5 million. Okay, I'm going to walk you through every step here. Seller wants $5 million. I submit a starter offer of $3 million. Now, funny enough, this is a specific example on a deal we're currently working on and have been working on for a little while. We're in this range right here, like right near the acceptance range, but this is exactly what we do in the process. Okay. So we submit a starting offer at $3 million. Okay. The seller then countered us back as an example here at $4.5 million. They're like, hey, I called them up and got them as a lead. They gave me all the information. They said they wanted $5 million. I underwrote the deal. I feel like it's probably worth somewhere in the mid fours. Okay. Somewhere between 4.2 and 4.8, somewhere in that range, 4.5, somewhere in that range. Okay. The seller then counters me at $4.5 million. Okay. So after I offered him $3 million, he comes down to $500,000 and says, listen, like I really need to be around $4.5 million or I'm probably not going to be able to get something done. Okay. It needs to be in the mid fours. Okay. I then take the $4.5 million number that he wanted. Okay. He told me he wanted $4.5 million. I then add my compensation to it. Very important piece. Okay. I'm going to star this. Okay. Pitch out $4.5 million plus my compensation. I'm pitching this deal at now $5 million. Okay. I want to make sure I'm covered. I don't need to talk to the seller saying, hey, would you pay me 6% commission? Because no one ever is going to say typically yes to that. Okay. You don't need to get an exclusive. You don't need to worry about all that kind of stuff, right? I don't need to worry if the seller was only willing to pay me 1% or 2% or 3% or 6%, whatever he's willing to pay me. I don't need him to even talk about that right now. Okay. So I offer the 4.5 plus my compensation. I'm going to add 500 to it. I'm not going to think, I don't know if I'm going to make 500, but I'm going to try to make a little bit of money, right? I want to at least get at least 6 points on top of the deal. So I pitch it out at $5 million, right? So if you come down here, I pitch it out to my investors. And after I pitch it out to my investors, I got an offer for 4 million, 4.2, and 4.3 million. Okay. So now that I have these three offers, okay, I get them to put it in writing, and then I verbally present the first offer to the seller. Okay. I pitch it out to, I now present this offer to the seller. Okay. Which, by the way, guys, listen, majority of the time when I'm working deals, unless it's a referral from somebody specifically, right? Most of the time we represent the buyer in every deal. This is how we represent, we typically double end every deal and how we push our commissions and make 4, 5, and 6% commissions on a majority of the deals we do. Right. And I've closed almost $1 billion worth of commercial real estate deals. And the way that I've done that is through this process and protection. Right. Now, obviously, when we work with sellers and we list the properties, a little bit different, but there's a lot of similarities for sure. Okay. So again, this is all off market, by the way. So we pitched out at $5 million. I got an offer for 4, 4.2, and 4.3 million. I then go back to the seller and I verbally present an offer minus the compensation. So what I do here is I go to my range of offers and I basically subtract off my commission. I want to make 6%. So I go basically based on my 4 million, 4.2, and 4.3. I offer $3.8 million to the seller. Okay. I said, listen, I had an offer that was at 3. I said, listen, I talked to a few different buyers and my highest offer right now is $3.8 million. Okay. Over the phone. I call up the seller to negotiate too. I don't just submit an offer. The seller now from this 3.8 now counters me at 4.2. Okay. And by the way, I tell them like, listen, I have an offer for you that nets you 3.8. That's how I discuss these offers. I have an offer to you that nets you $3.8 million. Okay. So I have an offer that nets you. That's whenever I speak to them verbally. When I verbally present this, I say, hey, I have an offer that nets you $3.8 million. The seller counters me at 4.2. He says, hey, I need to net $4.2 million. Okay. He's at 5, then I got him down to 4.5. Now I'm at 4.2. You'd be blown away how often this happens all the time. Okay. And by the way, if you don't have a seller who's not willing to negotiate, they're stuck at $5 million and they're continuing to be stuck at $5 million. Do they have a clear path to transacting? Probably not. Probably not going to get a deal done, right? So anyways, they're at 4.2. I then, once I get this counter from the seller saying I need to net 4.2, well, I have an option. I could just tell the 4.3 we're good to go, and I can take $100,000, right? I can make a $100,000 commission check, right? He's at 4.3, he's at 4.2. I can make $100,000, or I can try to get a little bit more, because the goal now is that now we want to counter all of our true offers, okay? And I need to counter them to tell them what the seller is actually looking for, because I told them $5 million. I now am going to go back to everybody at his number plus my compensation, which I'm still going to keep at the 500 just to protect myself, okay? I could probably say 4.7, 4.6, maybe. Okay, 6% commission's fine. But I'm going to go back to all my true offers, all these people, and I'm going to go back at 4.8. Okay? I mean, I probably could have went at 4.7, right? Because 4.2, 4.8, anyways. I went back at 4.8. Okay? And all I'm looking for, once I've countered everybody, the whole point of this counter is that I'm looking for the best terms, the highest levels of certainty of closing. Okay? Very important. Best terms, the highest certainty of close, the highest dollar amount, highest price, and the lowest risk. This is the type of offer I want. I mean, let's be greedy for a second. This is everything we want, right, guys? Like, we want the best terms possible, right? The highest certainty of closing. So, like, let's do best terms, right? Like, so very low due diligence time frame, right? A high deposit, right? Like a decently high deposit. It's his highest price. So obviously we want like the highest price we possibly can, and lowest risk, which means that the way for me for lowest risk is a fast time frame. Maybe it's closed, maybe no contingency on getting a mortgage, maybe no contingencies whatsoever, maybe a non-refundable deposit, right? Things that like a high non-refundable deposit day one, right? Or a high deposit in general, right? So I'm going to counter all of them, right? And I'm just going to try to get the best terms, highest certainty of closing, highest price, lowest risk. Okay. Now I go back to the seller. Let's say that I went back to everybody, right? Let's say from these offers, let's say that I got a 4.3, a 4.4, and a $4.5 million number. Okay. I got 4.3, 4.4, 4.5, right? I got all these numbers here. All of them came up a little bit. We can even say that the 4 million, like whatever, they all came up a little bit. Okay. But the best number I have right now is 4.5 million. And let's say that they're all relatively same or different or whatever. It doesn't really matter. Really. They're all different scattered terms. They could be the same. They're just 3 different offers. Okay. But what I'm going to do is that I'm still going to go back to the seller with this number minus compensation. Because I might go to them and say like, hey, I got you an offer that nets you 4.1. Okay. I'm just trying to build spread to make sure I'm going to be compensated fairly. Now, look, because what I could do is I could just say, like, let's just say the 4.3 was cash, right? So what I can try to do on all of them and say, hey, here are all the prices, okay? I can still negotiate. I can do whatever at this point, right? Like I put them all in writing. I get these all in writing. And now I want to present the best terms and the highest likelihood of closing where my compensation is covered. I can say, like, listen, like, I have 3 offers for you. One nets you 4.1, but it's cash, okay? Another one nets you 4.2, but it has a 90-day closing, right, or whatever. And the other one is 4.5 million, but they want to do seller financing, right? And I can present all 3 of these offers, right? And I'm just trying to confirm the terms and compensation is correct to make sure I'm covered. And I can say, which one would you prefer? Would you prefer to take 4.1 cash, 4.2 with a little bit longer of a close, right? Or 4.5 with seller financing, right? Or 4.3 net to you with seller financing. I'm always going to say net to you because I want to protect my compensation, right? I always want to protect my comp. And a lot of people make the mistake when they're doing that because what they'll do is they'll say, oh yeah, I have an offer of 4.5 million for you. And then the seller goes 4.5, I want to net 4.5. Because they'll go like, oh, like the seller wants 4.5 million. You go to these guys and you say 4.5. The seller wants 4.5. I'm messing up. Seller wants 5 million. I'm talking in tongues, okay? The seller wants 5 million. You immediately go to pitch it out at 5 million. You don't do these, which I would do, okay? This is a mistake, by the way. You pitch it out at 5 million, thinking that the seller is going to pay you, And then you get offers of 4 million, 4.2, 4.3. You offer the seller 4.3 million. You give him the best price. You go, here's the offer of 4.3 million. He sees 6% commission on the deal. And he goes, I'm not paying you 6%. And I want 4 point, I'll take the, the 4.3. He goes, I need to net 4.2, right? Or something like that. Or he goes, I want to net 4.5, right? Or you put yourself in this weird position, right? All of a sudden you do this deal and you might only make $100,000 when you could have made 6%, right? The problem with not protecting yourself and adding and subtracting compensation and talking, when you're talking to a buyer, make sure you add your compensation. When you're talking to the seller, you say in terms of net to you bottom line, what it does is protects your compensation. It gives you the highest likelihood of earning 4, 5, or 6% commission on every deal you're doing. Okay. It's very important as a broker that, especially when you're doing deals off market, specifically when you're doing deals off market, because nothing specifically stated in writing, this is how you protect yourself. So for all of you wondering how you protect yourself and how we're able to achieve 4, 5, and 6% commission 80 to 90% of the time on deals, this is how. Very, very important. Okay. Anybody else have any other specific questions so far on 1, 2, 3, and 4, right? So because 1 is lead gen. We talk about vetting and clearly understanding if there's an opportunity, do they have a clear path to transaction. Number 2, we talked about follow-up / lead conversion. Okay. We talked about how to build automatic campaigns and how to build creative processes to convert leads and move them up or down the pipeline. Number 3, we talked about pitching deals. Okay. How to call up a buyer and have a conversation with them, and how to make sure you always get an offer when you're speaking to a buyer, or at least clarity to move the deal forward, right? Hey, is the deal or is it the buyer? Okay. Number 4, we talked about negotiating. Okay, we talked about negotiations. We talked about making sure you protect yourself and adding and subtracting your compensation depending on who you're speaking to. When you're speaking to your seller, you talk in terms of net number to you, net dollars to you. When you're speaking to a buyer, you always add your compensation to whatever the net dollars are to the seller. This way, it protects you when you're dealing with off-market deals. Okay. Now, number 5. How are we doing so far? By the way, who here has some questions? Before we get into number 5, I'm going to go through some of these questions here. I'm going to make sure everyone's being taken care of here. Joshua Lee says, hey, Henry, I'm having trouble because my broker wants me to get documents with potential buyers on my off-market deals before sending addresses and financials. How do I prevent not getting cut out of deals? Great question, Josh. I'll leave this up. So what happens here, this is actually very common, where most brokerages are corporate-minded thinking, okay? And they want to make sure they get documents signed, which, by the way, is not a terrible thing to do when you're speaking with a buyer, especially a buyer you've never done any business with, or a newer investor, right? When you're speaking with a new investor, a lot of them don't understand the broker-client relationship. They don't understand it. They're new to the business, right? And by the way, the only time I've ever been screwed over, which has been twice in my entire 10-plus year career, has been with newer investors, okay? Newer investors are much more common to not understand the value of a broker, where seasoned investors are like, obviously, I need to work with brokers. It's where all my deals come from. So why would I want to screw them? Like, there's a lot of guys who I make over $1 million per year. Why would they want to screw me, right? So when you're dealing with these individuals, this is what I want to do, or this is what I recommend. Number 1, if the seller ever recommends getting something signed, if the seller ever recommends you getting something signed, you should get something signed. Okay. Like if they go, hey, I need an NDA signed, you always should get an NDA signed, for yourself and for every client you work with. Okay. If a seller doesn't say anything, if the seller goes like, hey, they just give you the information. They give you a rent roll, they give you P&L. They never mention anything about an NDA or a confidentiality disclosure or anything like that. They don't mention anything. What I would recommend to do is the following. The beginning of your career, you can definitely make sure you have buyers sign NDAs or CAs, right? Making sure that they're not going to go around you. But I want to be very clear about something, which I don't feel like brokers understand, is that let's just be honest. If they're going to screw you, they're going to screw you regardless, right? If a buyer is going to screw you over and they're going to go around you, right? They're going to go around you regardless if they sign an NDA or a CA. Like if their intention is to screw people over, if they're that kind of person, they're going to do it no matter what. So in my opinion, I just don't typically see the reason why it's that important to vet people, to get people to sign, non-disclosures or NDAs or confidentiality agreements when, like, if they're going to screw me over, they're going to screw me over. And if they're not going to screw me, they're not going to screw me. Like, it's just like, that's just the personality type of the individual, right? There's a lot of kind people out there, and there's a lot of people who are just, out to hurt people, right? So in those cases, there's a lot of justification to getting documents signed. I can appreciate that. Like, I understand your broker just wants to protect you and also protect himself, right? No one wants to go into a lawsuit, and this obviously helps with the lawsuit for sure, right? However, I want to be clear with you. If you're with a brokerage that is mandating, like forcing you, must 100% of the time get these documents signed, or, they have an issue or whatever. Honestly, it's kind of like a micromanagement kind of thing. And like, if you like being a part of brokerages that are kind of like that, so be it. If you don't want to be a part of a brokerage that likes that forces you to do that kind of stuff, like EXP Commercial doesn't force us to do anything like that. Like, there's not a requirement to get a deal done. You don't have to get an NDA or a confidentiality agreement signed in order to pitch out a deal. However, just realize most brokerages they're just trying to protect you, right? Like, EXP Commercial respects that. Like, I should know what I'm talking about. And if I need to be protected, I should get doc signed. Or if I feel like I want protection, I should get doc signed, right? So just know that, like, how to prevent, like, because a part of your question is like, how do you prevent getting cut out of deals? There's no 100% prevention, right? There's just not. Vet your buyers very carefully is the biggest way, right? And obviously you can get documents on, but if they're going to choose to screw you, there's not a lot you can do. Okay. Who else? If you have any other specific questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat box down below. I just want to make sure I can handle. Let's see if there's anything else here. There's lots of comments, not any other questions here. Joshua, follow-up. Okay, here. Got it. How do you prevent from going behind your back, though? So, look, there is not a guarantee 100% that somebody's not going to go around you. There is never a guarantee, right? It is really, you can do your best to get them to sign all the documents, right? And I'm not saying don't get them signed. I'm just saying that a lot of times we don't get them signed, right? Like, unless a seller specifically states to sign an NDA or confidentiality agreement, then 100% of the time we will, because that's the seller's wishes, and we'll always abide by what our seller is requiring, right, or requesting. But you can never guarantee with 100% certainty people won't screw you, right? Because, I mean, as an example, I had a friend of mine, a good friend of mine, that did a deal, and he was in contract, and the broker screwed him. The broker ended up screwing him over, and they're in a lawsuit right now where the broker, my friend brought the buyer. This random broker brought the seller, and they were doing a deal. And in the contract, it stipulates like, hey, my friend is due money. And then at closing, they never paid him, and the other broker took all the commission. And then now is claiming that, like, oh, well, you didn't do anything anyways. You don't deserve to be paid. So they're fighting in court now. Like, look, people are going to try to screw you if they want to try to screw you. I mean, that's just a sad truth of people, right? So, by the way, if you guys have any other further questions, please feel free to either drop them in the chat or email us at info@henryeisenstein.com. We'd love to be able to support you. Okay. Now, I want to be very clear about number 5, because number 5 is a special one. If you are not earning, okay, this is earning, okay, $500,000 a year, okay, there's no reason to go to number 5 yet. If you're earning less than $500,000 a year, focus on the 4 here, okay? Because this will help you earn more than $500,000 a year. The reason why you're not making $500,000 a year is because one of these pieces of your business is broken, okay? One of these pieces is broken. And obviously, another part of it can be understanding underwriting, okay? Like, you don't have the right systems here. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that we coach on, right? Like, understanding underwriting, mastering lead gen, learning lead conversion and mastering that, mastering the art of pitching deals, understanding negotiations at a high level. Like, there's only so many reasons why, you're not making $500,000, and basically every single thing is on the board here. Like, that's why you're not making $500,000 a year or more. Okay, something here is broken. You don't either understand you don't understand underwriting, you don't have the right systems, or one of these core 4 of the 5 is not working. Okay, so before you do number 5, fix these things until you're making over $500,000 a year. Okay, who here is ready for number 5? Put a 5 in the chat if you guys are ready for number 5. Put a 5 in the chat. If you're enjoying this and you want number 5, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, drop a 5 in the chat. Let's roll. So here we go. Number 5 is team building. Now, I talk about this at a very high level only with my inner circle members. Okay? My inner circle members, we talk about this a lot. Team building is a crucial activity when you're trying to earn $1 million a year. Okay? This is one of the only ways to earn $1 million or more. Okay? This is for $500K a year. If you want to start making more money, right? Like I'm trying to earn $1 million net a month. I need to build a team. I cannot do that alone. Okay. It's just not going to happen. Okay. I want to earn big money. Like the only way to do that is through team building. But I first focused on the core 4 here, right? And underwriting the systems before I started focusing on team building. Okay. So let's talk about team building real quick. Let's talk about this in depth. Now, again, this is for those of you who are already earning $500,000 a year. So like the first threshold is you're already making 500K plus. Yeah. Okay. You're earning 500K plus. Now we can talk about team building. Okay. We don't talk about it beforehand. We talk about it specifically when now you're making $500,000 a year. Number 1. Okay. Which is, you have to bring on, support staff. Okay. Support is first. Before anything else is you want to bring on support staff. Okay. Because you want to think about your team as being like, as an example for me, it's the Henry team. These are people that are specifically hired to support Henry, me, in producing more deals, right? So it's you, okay? And then you're going to bring on some people, okay? Now this is supposed to, help you sell more deals. Okay. Now, the big mistake is that people, a lot of agents go straight to do not do this. Okay. This is the mistake. Do not hire. Well, that's not the right hire. Son of a gun. Hire junior agents. Do not do this. Do not hire junior agents right away. Because this is the mistake. People go straight to hiring junior agents. Now, I did this at the very beginning of my career, okay, when I started trying to build my own team. I wasn't even making $500,000 a year, and I went straight to hiring junior agents. And you know what happened to my profit? You know what happens if you do this? If you make this mistake, your profit, okay, what do you think happens to your profit? What do you think happens to your profit? It goes down. Okay? If you hire support staff, what do you think happens to your profit? It goes up. Okay? Don't be like old me. Do not go straight to hiring junior agents. Go to $500,000 a year on your own, okay? Which you can do that on your own. Okay? And you'd be surprised if you focus on the core 4 strategies and you master the art of underwriting. Realistically, those 5 things, right? The core 4 plus underwriting will get you to the point where now you can be building team. Like I'll do when I do this training next. I'm literally going to do the core 5 is all underwriting. Then number 6 is building a team. Okay, so it's very important to realize that like you don't need to even start building a team until you're making $500 a year, because you could do $500 a year with 3 or 4 or 5 transactions a year, and you could do that by yourself. You don't need more support staff. Okay, but now we're going to talk about support staff. So, and this is the exact training that I have. Again, people who pay me tens of thousands of dollars a year. Okay, a lot of money. Okay, one of the main things we focus on in their business is how to build out the support staff. We help them with hiring. We help them with this process, right? So this is very important to learn, right? But again, like I'm working with people who want to make, these are $500,000 plus producers, and we focus on these types of strategies, which is specifically hiring a TC, a lead manager, right, and an admin. Now, you don't hire all 3 at the beginning. No, it depends on your income. Like if you're coming to me and you're making $1 million a year and you have none, we're going to start hiring all 3. We're going to do all 3, but later them, okay? First is a TC. First thing is a TC. Now, what does a TC do? A transaction coordinator is going to handle everything from transaction to close. Okay, I'm going to do a quick brief overview here. Okay, I'm not going to go too much into depth. Okay? This is because this could be a 4-hour training in itself. Okay, you're going to hire a transaction coordinator. You pay them on a per transaction basis, and the whole purpose of a transaction coordinator is to handle everything from contract to close, C to C, contract to close. So you get an LOI drafted. They can even help you draft it. Okay. If you only have a transaction coordinator, but it's drafted, it's sent over to the seller, you presented it, you negotiated it, and you got it accepted. Okay. Now that it's accepted, you're going to hand things over to your transaction coordinator, and they're going to handle everything with that deal, contract to close. This should be a licensed individual. They don't need to be full-time. You just pay them on a per transaction basis, somewhere between $500 and $1,000. You pay them 50% up front and 50% at closing. This is what I did at the beginning of my career. Very profitable. Okay. This is what I teach a lot of agents to do now. I basically, I made the mistake of hiring full-time employees, by the way, too early. And I had a very heavy, very unprofitable business for a period of time many years ago because I had a lot of staff. And that's what my mentor told me in the past. And now today, you can have a lot of VAs doing the same thing at a fraction of the cost. Okay. So TC, transaction, contract to close, listing to close, like a lot of this type of stuff that you should not be doing a lot of, administrative tasks specifically around the contract process. Okay. The second part of this is a lead manager, an LM. Okay. This is specifically a VA. Okay. So this one's a licensed agent who's, maybe a woman who works at home and maybe he's hanging out with her kids, but could be on the computer all day and just makes phone calls. Great. She does not need to be 30, 40, 50 hours a week. This could be someone who's working 10 hours a week. Okay. Lead manager, this person needs to be a full-time VA. This is a 30, 40, 50 hour a week job. This is someone who, again, we have 2 lead managers in our business. We pay them between $800 and $1,200 a month. Okay. It does not need to be expensive. $900 to $1,200. Yeah. Because it's 150 to, I guess that numbers make sense. Yeah. 150 a week to $300 a week that you can pay this person. All right. So actually, I guess that's $600. Yeah. $600 to $1,200 a month. Okay. 150 to 300 a week. You'd be surprised the talent level you can get for that kind of individual. And the whole purpose of a lead manager, by the way, okay, someone you can get, in the Philippines or from India or from South America, a lot of individuals you can work with. And the whole purpose of this individual is just to keep your CRM organized. Every lead has phone number, email, and is on a task and on a campaign. Every single lead is not missed. Every lead has all the correct contact information. So if any emails bounced, they make sure they notify you and say, hey, you got to call this person. The email is incorrect. You have to get the right information. They can even send a text message saying, hey, I tried to send you an email, but the email bounced. Can you clarify your email, please? Or if you have the right email and the phone number is incorrect, they send an email. They say, hey, Bob, I tried to call you, but for whatever reason, I think I saved the wrong phone number and went to, it said it was a non-working number. Can you clarify your cell phone number for me? It's Henry again with EXP commercial. We spoke the other day, right? I was trying to call you about a deal, right? Whatever it is, they can clarify that for you, right? Obviously, if it needs more clarification, they set up a task for you to make sure that you can call them and clarify that. They have all the right tags, right? So they clarify that the tags are correct, the right asset class, that's a seller or a buyer, right? Maybe geographic location, whichever which way you have your business set up, it's tagged appropriately, okay? That they're all on a task. So if a lead does not have a task, that means there's no time to actually call this person set up for the future. Every single lead should have a task. If it's a follow-up lead, okay, like a long-term nurture lead, right? It should be on a 90-day or 12-month follow-up campaign. And if it's not on a campaign, they ensure that it's on a campaign. That is 100% their job, and they're just making sure that your entire database is clean, 24/7, 365, and that there's no issue, and there's no mess within your database. Okay, that's the entire purpose of that lead manager. Last but not least is your admin. Okay, your admin is going to be someone that you can also have a VA handle. Okay, this is like an executive assistant, marketing coordinator / admin. They really are going to handle a bunch of the personalized tasks. Okay, I have 2 of them that work for me. You can also pay them $150 to $300 a week. You don't need to pay them a lot of money. But the whole purpose of this individual is to handle all of the small little tasks. This person can handle your emails for you, okay, and make sure that it deletes all the nonsense and make sure it stars all the stuff that you need to be handling. Number two, it also will make sure that your calendar is set up appropriately and you don't miss any meetings. Number three, that they can draft your letters of intent for you and send them for signature when necessary. It can also make sure that your content is organized. They can post your content for you. They can edit content for you. They can handle a lot of kind of the small and administrative tasks in your business to make sure you don't have to handle it. They can handle things like ordering things on Amazon for you. They can, you can handle, make sure they're handling all these little things that honestly you should not be doing day to day, because all those things I just mentioned, by the way, are not high dollar per hour activities. These are low dollar per hour activities, and you can have them vetted out or sent out or subbed out, right? Delegated to an individual like this. So what the coolest part is that these three positions, right? These three positions added together, you pay this person $500 to $1,000 per transaction. This person you pay $150 to $300 a week, and this person you pay $150 to $300 a week. So that means let's do $300 a week. That's $1,200 a month. Call it 15 grand a year. 15 grand a year. And if you close, let's say 10 transactions a year, which again would probably be around $1 million income a year. Okay, 10 deals, 100 grand a piece. 10 deals at $2 million, 5% commission average, because we learn how to do off-market deals. This is what a lot of my coaching members are doing. 5 to 15 deals a year, making multi six figures and some several over 7 figures. Okay, and this total cost for 15 deals, even, okay, at the highest cost will be $15,000 plus 15 plus 15. That's $45,000 in support administrative costs, plus the, call it some software that you're going to have. So you're maybe spending another, call it couple $1,000s. Let's call it maybe $2,000 a month in software. So that's plus $2,000 a month, right? Which is $24,000 a year. Call it 25 grand. That means their total cost out of pocket is $70,000 per year to run a $1 million a year business with 70 grand a year. Your profit margin is 93%. Okay? This is a perfect business, in my opinion. Now, again, you can choose to make more, or you can make $930,000 a year net taxable. Okay, because your business is not going to need anything else, and you could figure out a way to invest more. Invest that money in the 930, live off of 300 grand, live an amazing life on 300 grand a year, and then take 630 G's a year. Okay, that means your personal expenses. That means your car, your house, your lifestyle, the travel, and all kind of stuff is 300 G's a year. Live an amazing life at $25,000 a month. Okay, and then take 630 grand a year. Okay, it's the balance of this, because you only spend 70 grand a year to run your $1 million a year business, okay? And invest 630 grand into real estate deals, okay? That to me is the magic sauce, right? Where you can, you can find a way to maybe pay, your accountant, talk to your accountant and find a way to only pay taxes on 200 to 300, okay? Or 100 to 300 grand, depending on how good your taxes, your accountant is, okay? You're gonna be able to write off something with your cars or other nonsense. You're gonna get gas or whatever you're doing, okay? And you're gonna find a way, because you can invest that and do a cost segregation, accelerated depreciation on the 630 grand, okay? And you can get a massive tax write-off, and you continually do this every single year, okay, over and over and over again. Or maybe you invest 500 and you use 150 of it for taxes, because you're going to pay some high taxes. That's just what we do as real estate people, okay, or business owners essentially, right? If you're in real estate, it helps you mitigate your tax basis. But these are the people who make a lot of money, invest a lot of money, okay? Because you're running your business very smart. And now if you want to make more than 930 net a year, you can decide. I want to make $1 million, $930 net a year. A month. I want to make 930 net, or $1 million net a month is my next goal, right? That's, which means that I'm going to have to net $12 million a year, okay, before I start investing. But 12 to Henry after all my expenses and all my team splits. So the broker, my team is going to have to do like between 30 and 50 $1 million a year in commissions over the next few years. This is our next big goal. That's what I'm looking to obtain. That's why I post a lot of content. So if you're actually an individual who wants to scale your business, if you enjoyed this training and you want to have more access to me, whether it's through one of our coaching communities or joining my team, if you want to join my team and work with me on my team, where a lot of this is already built out, and you get a lot of access to me and help you scale your business, whether it's through the coaching community, right? Because you don't want to split deals with me, or if you want to join my team specifically, down in the description below. You can either book a call with my team and myself, see if it's a good fit in any fashion, whether it, the first link is for joining the coaching community if you're interested in more support. If you join the content, or in the description down below, it says join EXP and my team. You can book the link there. I'd love to communicate with you guys, chat with you guys, connect with everybody, and and see if anybody here is a good fit and see if we can support you in going from where you are today to multi six figures, high six figures, or even some of you 7 figures plus, because we've done that a couple of times with a number of our students, and I'd love to be able to support you hitting the 7-figure plus mark. We have dozens and dozens and dozens of success stories of individuals who are going from, low 6 figures to mid to high 6 figures. And I'd love to be able to do that for you guys. I'm speaking tomorrow at EXP Commercial Con. I'm on a panel. We're talking about AI. We're going to be putting all that on social media. So look out for that in the future. If you guys enjoyed this content, give me a thumbs up in the chat box down below. Give me a thumbs up wherever you're watching it. Make sure you like and comment and subscribe to the channel, or follow me wherever you're listening to me today. If you're in the Miami area, show up at EXPCon tomorrow or in Miami Beach. I'll try to do a meetup of some sort probably this week. I'd love to be able to connect with you guys. Thank you for tuning in today. I appreciate you very, very much. And we'll see you guys again soon in the next video. Take care, everybody. And actually, last thing we're going to do, if you're not interested in staying for any more of the training, but if you have more questions, I'm going to stay on here for just a little while longer. I'm going to stay on. Let's see where we're at now. We're at 3:40. I got about 10-ish minutes left. We're going to spend the rest of the time. We're going to do Q&A. So we're going to do some Q&A here. If you have any questions, you can treat this like a Q&A session here. Just look, here we go. We're going to go to Q&A. So let's do some Q&A. Who here has some questions? Drop it in the chat box down below. For all the rest of you guys, thank you guys for tuning in. What questions do you guys have? I'm here to support it. I'm going to be here hanging out for the next 10 minutes or so. If you have some questions, drop it in the chat. What do we got? Who's got some questions here? A lot of people are enjoying this. We have here Olivia saying, loving this. Thank you so much. Appreciate that very much. Let's see here. Olivia again saying, thank you so much for doing this. Appreciate you, Olivia. What other questions do we have? What other questions do we have? Drop them in the chat box down below. If you're interested in getting CRE Sync and my new commercial real estate book, my new commercial real estate book is coming out also by the end of this year. I'm very excited for it. We're in one of our last revisions, probably have one more revision after this one before we go to publishing. So I'm very excited about that. If you're interested in getting a copy of CRE Sync, my new CRM system, or a copy of my book, all you have to do is subject line, email me at info@henryeisenstein.com, subject line CRM or subject line book, CRE book, and we'll make sure we add you to our list. So once that's coming out, we'll make sure we get you access to it ASAP. If you have any questions, make sure you drop it in the chat, because let's go here. Joshua says, if I'm talking to institutional investors, would it be best to just send them addresses? No, I would never just send anybody an address. If you're talking to an institutional investor, always get them on the phone. We were just literally, I was just on the phone with you have to figure out who is on the acquisitions department for those larger institutions. But we have very good relationships with a couple of very large REITs. Okay, like very multi-billion-dollar REITs. Was just on the phone call with a guy who manages one of the large, I'm not going to say specifically who, but a very large REIT. They have like $16 billion in assets under management. And we built a good relationship with on the phone with him for 30 minutes. Just last time we were just pitching him a portfolio, like a $40 million portfolio. I think it was like a $40 or $45 million portfolio, and he offered like 33 or 34 or 35 million. So anyways, very, very excited about that. But no, I would always just build a relationship with them. Do not, specifically when you're talking to institutional investors, you want to reach out to them and build a relationship with whoever's at their acquisitions department, and build a good relationship with them. Don't just send emails. You'll figure out if they prefer email or text messages or calls, but I like to do everything over the phone. Follow-up question here. Got it. So I'm speaking with similar investors. They have over $1 billion, and I'm speaking to the partners in it. So it would be best to get them on the phone 100% of the time, every time. Get them on the phone. You don't listen, guys, business in this industry specifically, business gets done over the phone or face-to-face shaking a hand. right? You're not going to just send an email and you're going to get something done and make a bunch of money. Never rely on that. I always like to build relationships over the phone and or in person. You'd be surprised. I mean, look, I live in Miami. I sell real estate all over the country. Some investors who I've done many deals with, many closings with, I've either never met them or I've met them one time, right? There's a lot of opportunity for you guys to make a lot of money without even meeting these people face to face. If you have any questions, drop in the chat box down below. I got a few more minutes. We're gonna go for a little bit here, just in Q&A, to make sure who has any questions about anything we covered today. Lead generation. We talked about lead gen. We talked about lead conversion. We talked about pitching deals. We talked about negotiations, and we talked a little bit about team building. Who here has any specific questions about any of that or anything else? Drop it in the chat box down below. We'll be able to support you. My dog was sleeping the whole time. She started snoring at some point. She thought I was so boring. Who here has any other questions? She's like waiting for me to give her attention. Should I get you into the call? Let's get my dog in here. Come here, sweetheart. So you gonna say hi, Zoe? This is one of my best friends ever. This is my little girl. She looks like a mop today. We're gonna get you cleaned up. We should have the groomer come in. We're gonna go for a walk in a little bit, okay? Just hang out. Joshua, I love that you're asking questions. Thank you so much. By the way, anybody can do this. All right. Joshua's here on you following live here on YouTube. So he's asking some great questions. Drop more questions in the chat if you have any more. So I appreciate all the questions, Joshua. That's what I'm here for. So you're gonna get as much support as you ask for. So Josh says, great. How do I get you on the phone to talk to you about a real estate deal? Send over to via email. Yeah, let me review it. And by the way, anybody here has the ability to send me a deal. Just send me an email, info@henrygeisenstein.com. And we'll email back and forth, and I'll give you some feedback on the deal. I do this all the time for everybody. Obviously, you have to give me some grace because all of our coaching students have priority. So if I don't get to you for a couple days, it's because number one, your deal just might not be that great. But number two, also like you're second in priority. my coaching students get 100% priority. So I review all their deals and get back to them within the same day. For everybody else, it might be a day 2 or 3, unless I think your deal is unbelievable and I think I can sell it right away. But most of the time, you'll definitely get an answer from me within a few days. No problem. I'll try to get you, some feedback on the deal. Might be a short answer. Like I've sent some people, like you send me a deal and I'll be like, hey, I think this deal sucks. Don't waste a lot of time on it. I think you'd be wasting time working on the deal. If I think it's really good, I'll answer you and say, like, hey, I have some buyers. If you want to, I don't mind working deals with people. But like one of my biggest pet peeves is when someone says like, hey, I remember somebody sent me an email and you know who you are, but and I'll just be blunt. I'm not gonna tell you the name, but somebody sends me an email and it was like, hey, if you buy this deal, okay, it was like someone calling, sending me an email with a deal. It was a terrible deal. Okay. Not good whatsoever. It was a very overpriced property and it was in the middle of nowhere. And they said, hey, if you buy this deal, I will then reinvest the money into the coaching program. I'm like, look, number one, I don't need you to join the coaching program. I don't care. Unlike a lot of coaches out there, I don't make anywhere, a very small percentage of my monthly income comes from coaching. Okay. So I make money because I'm in the commercial real estate business. We sell several $100 million a year in commercial real estate right now. And we're selling more every year than the year before. We're building a big team, and I also own a lot of commercial real estate. Okay. I own a lot of real estate. So I don't need you to join the coaching program. So like, that's number one. So that doesn't, if you want to join and you want support and making more money, that's what we're here for. Right. But number two, it's like a terrible deal. Like, it's like, this isn't a bartering thing. Like, I don't need you to barter with me. Like, well, if you do this for me, I'll do this for you. It's like, no. Like, I'm a giver, right? I'm doing this for free. Like, you can watch all this content for free. I'm here to answer your emails for free. But I'm not going to just buy some stupidly overpriced deal in the middle of nowhere because you want to join my coaching program and you don't have the money to afford it, right? Those are two different things. And sometimes maybe it means getting a job. But Josh, if you have any deals, send it over to me, info@henrygeisenstein.com. I promise you I will get back to you. If you don't get a response from me within a week, just email me again and I will see it. Don't be afraid to just bug me if you don't get an answer. I definitely will make sure I check it out. Not purposely ignoring anybody. I just obviously have, get a lot of requests for, questions and other things like that. And I promise you, I'll get back to you. If I think it's a very lucrative deal, I'll say, hey, I have a good buyer for this possibly, or myself. and I'll give you guidance, and I'll say, hey, like, but keep in mind, guys, if I do bring a buyer, you get represented on your side, I get representation on my side, and we'll be able to hopefully do a deal together, and we get paid, as brokers. I will also tell you a lot of the times I'll be like, hey, like, are you direct to seller? Please, big pet peeve is do not send me deals that are listed. Do not send me deals where you're not direct to seller. Okay. If you're not direct to seller on a deal, okay, and or it's listed, I cannot help you. Okay. Like, I'm not going to take my time out of my day, okay, focusing on supporting lots of people and trying to earn money, right? Where, like, you have a deal like, hey, I saw this deal listed on the market, unless it's like an unbelievable deal for some reason, and like a residential broker listed it for sale, okay? But, like, don't send me something listed, and don't send me something that's represented by somebody else, because I can't help you, okay? Yeah. I mean, like, look, Joshua just has a follow-up here. He's saying that, God, it might be tough because the sellers don't want any brokers involved. Well, look, unless we can wholesale it and make a lot of money, because hypothetically, like, we have some deals right now that we're working on wholesaling. Like, I don't mind doing off-market wholesaling, commercial real estate wholesaling, but it has to be a very, 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 very good deal, and you have to be okay with splitting the deal, okay? And by the way, like, if you have a commercial real estate deal that you feel like is an unbelievable opportunity, if I buy it as an investor, you can still make your compensation. Okay, we'll make sure that there's plenty of compensation for you. I also, if you're doing commercial real estate wholesaling, if you don't have the money, I'm willing to put up the money to wholesale the deal. But, like, again, I charge interest on my money, and we'll do the deal. We'll make sure everybody's paid. But typically, like, with even in my team, right? But, like, again, it's after all of the expenses are paid off and my interest on my money is paid off, right? So, like, I have hundreds of thousands of dollars at any given point in time in deposits that are just out there on properties right now, which, like, there's not no risk, right? Because, again, like, I have to pay my attorney on a deal. So if the deal falls apart, that comes out of, like, the potential income of the deal, right? Obviously we subtract off all the expenses of the deal. So whatever the net profit is, and then I take, 10% interest on my money that's being laid out. Like, I'm investing a lot of money to make sure that we can close these deals. So I try to make, a little bit of a percentage right on my money for the deals we wholesale, but I don't try, it's not greedy. It's like 10%. I mean, it's like nothing. It's especially because, like, I can move fast and I'll be nimble, but keep that in mind whenever you guys are doing deals. So, like, I love to do deals together. But, again, typically it's 50-50. I represent my side, you represent your side. What other questions do we have? I got to jump in just a few minutes here. I want to make sure all questions are answered. I'm going to give it another 60 seconds or so, see if there's any other questions before we wrap up. I appreciate you guys very much for reaching, for all the questions, all the emails I get from you, all the amazing comments, all the people following the journey. I appreciate you guys, watching here, watching the content here today. It means a lot. If you guys need any more support when it comes to commercial real estate, I hope I can be a resource for you. There's a lot of free resources down in the description down below. My Scriptbook 2.0 is coming out within the next week or two. So make sure you guys look out for that. Scriptbook 2.0. Make sure you download it. It has a lot of resources in there that can support you guys. My underwriting spreadsheet, also free. You can email us if you need a copy of that as well. The Scriptbook should be in the description down below. But if it's not, you can just email us for the free Scriptbook as well. All the content on everything commercial real estate. We're constantly doing more. I'll do more content specifically on AI in the next coming weeks because I'm speaking at EXP Commercial Con tomorrow, October 20th in Miami Beach. So if you guys are going to be around, make sure you guys hit me up. Other than that, thank you guys so very much. Wonderful chatting with everybody. Thank you guys for tuning in, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care, everybody. Peace out.